Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Starbase Weekly, episode 82. My name is Mauricio, and I'll hand this off to Indnstar.
Welcome, everybody. We have 2 days of ground photos and a flyover. This is a lucky week. Dave, you want to take it away?
Thank you, Indy. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We looked at some pictures last night. Mauricio had some laptop problems. We need to solve that problem. And it is amazing how fast SpaceX is moving. Warp speed doesn't even describe it this week. And I will pass it to Jake.
Hey everyone, it's good to be back for another episode. We got plenty of awesome photos to go through this week, and we hope you all enjoy. And with that, I'll pass it over to Zack.
Hey everyone, this is Zack Golden, and welcome to another Starbase Weekly live stream. Sorry for the delay with getting the show started, having some technical issues in the background. Apparently, OBS Studio and the Stream Deck app that I use are choosing not to cooperate with each other. So we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. I'm not going to be able to zip through the images as quickly as I normally do, as far as like swapping between scenes, because I usually like to have smooth transitions and whatnot. But so y'all are going to see a lot of potentially me scrolling through windows like this, which is just something we're going to have to deal with today. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the show, because it's going to be a really exciting episode. I think there's a ton of changes going on as always. Yeah, with that, we're going to probably start over at Massey like we normally do. And then we're also going to cover some of the other news updates of the week as we go. And we also have a pretty interesting. We have a interesting. Sorry, Mauricio, I'm trying to think of what your project that you're working on that he's going to share with us. So, yeah, that's going to be really cool to show. It's related to the water-cooled steel plates. So, yeah, once we get there, we will have Mauricio. Matter of fact, Mauricio, I think you're going to need to send that over to me before we get started. So.
I'll send it over in a bit. Before you get started, we do have like a picture-in-picture issue with on the YouTube. So I don't know if that's on your end, Zack, or Indnstar. I don't know if you've checked it out.
Those are his thumbnails.
No,
On
there's
YouTube.
Yeah, we've definitely got a picture-in-picture issue on YouTube. It looks great on Discord.
So I see it on Discord as well.
No, top left-hand quarter of the screen is duplicated in YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, going back to that project, it's going to be something that's going to be pretty interesting. I'll send that over to you, Zach.
Cool. All right, and I'll go ahead and download that in the background, and then we'll see if we can figure out where that picture-in-picture is coming from.
I took care of it.
Cool. Awesome. Well, with that, let's go ahead and hop into the show. We have last week we mentioned that Booster 10, as you all know, moved over to the Massey site, but we didn't have any images to show that. So this is the first time we have any aerials actually showing Booster 10 over at the Massey site, which is pretty awesome. It's kind of crazy still to me to see such a large vehicle over here. But as y'all can see, they've already got it hooked up to the I guess you can call it QD setup, even though it's not like a quick disconnect. It's just a hard connection to all of the ground equipment. And yeah, we're still waiting on the first cryo test of Booster 10, which probably, I'm guessing, may take place next week. I'm actually surprised it didn't happen yet, but you know, it's probably takes a bit to get it set up once it's over here. But one thing I want to mention, we're going to kind of move away from there, which I found is really interesting this week, is if y'all notice the can crusher over here, as you can tell, it looks like they are kind of getting rid of it. All of the outer walkway pieces have been removed. I think there's still a few on this side, but they're in the process of removing all of these. So it kind of seems like they're never going to use this again. Kind of a sad day to me, honestly. What was that?
There's one thing worth pointing out, though. They did install all that new pipework going to that area recently, so it's a bit of a strange one, really. That they're disassembling the can crusher, but also running new pipework to that area. So if the
Well,
can crusher's going, then what goes there instead?
and is the can crusher really going, or are they getting ready to build a new configuration can crusher, maybe incorporating the pizza stone thing that they're working on the other pad? Because this thing has been assembled and disassembled sort of in the past.
I don't know if I've ever seen it disassembled before. I mean,
Yeah,
they
not
do
quite
they
to this
do
extent.
retrofit it. They do retrofit it at times, like when they're setting up for different tests, like moving different hydraulic piston configurations through here. But I don't think I've ever actually seen them take it apart like this before. You know, I guess to some degree, it's not fully being disassembled yet because this is just the walkway going around the outside. So it's possible that they may still use this in a different configuration, but I think this is really odd. And yeah, Jake, you're mentioning the cryo lines that they ran over here, which is odd because they
Yeah.
haven't actually used this with a. Wait, I don't think they've used it since they ran the new cryo lines over here because they used to have it running over to the backside,
Yeah.
and that's how it was configured for the last test. So maybe it's possible that if they are getting rid of this, that they might want another ship testing stand or something like that. That's the only.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I hope the can crusher doesn't go because, yeah, I find it quite an impressive structure, that, and it's always fun to watch it.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, but I mean, one of the things to consider here is that, this was, well, I want to say primarily for testing booster thrust sections, but they did a lot of other things on that as well too. And so with this new structure that they have down here, which we believe will end up being some sort of hydraulic thrust ram structure as well too. They may not need that anymore because they're doing it on I guess, smaller platform potentially. And I mean, the other thing to consider is, we probably won't be expecting to see any large changes, or maybe any changes at all, to the aft section of the booster for quite a while. I mean, I think if anything is locked in right now, it's probably the design of the engine count and the actual thrust puck on the booster. So, I mean, unless they increase the thrust of the Raptors beyond what the current thrust puck is capable of supporting, then I can't really see any reason for them to make any major changes in that regard. Yeah, but with that, we're still waiting for ship 27 to move over here. They've had the thrust ram structure for that set up for quite a while, but we still haven't seen 27 move out here. But we do have an interesting update from this morning. I guess the crane at the Sanchez site has disconnected from ship 26 and moved over to ship 27. So we'll touch on that a bit more once we get over to the Sanchez site. But one thing I also just noticed over here is that it looks like, and by the way, I haven't had a chance to go through these yet. It's been a busy weekend for me, so I'm kind of seeing some of this for the first time with y'all. But yeah, one thing I'm just noticing that they actually put the top of the cage onto the nose cone gel structure, which is interesting because, well, there's no way of dropping a test article in through the top. So I think it's interesting that they put it on here. It may just be a test fit.
No, the test article's there. It's just painted in invisible paint.
I was gonna ask you. Yeah, I think they're gonna have to disassemble this at least partially to bring over the test tank that we know they have sitting in the ring yard.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's possible that they could just be doing a test fit with this, but I don't know. Nothing on the bottom of the structure really changed, so I'm not really sure why that would be necessary. But I guess we'll probably find out in the coming weeks.
Unless they want to do some of the plumbing and stuff for the hydraulic lines with it in place, and then break the connections and put the test article in. It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, aren't the only hydraulic lines that they have are up on the top of the structure, right?
Well, that's a good question. Looking at the test article, because we need pull downs for the new test article.
Right. Yeah, I'm assuming those would probably be located on the bottom, but I haven't seen. I guess we can't really get close enough images over here to tell whether or not they have mounting positions for those. But that's going to be quite the retrofit for this to install that many. It'll be 24. I'm guessing maybe 24 or 12 pistons, possibly.
Yeah, 12 pistons, I think Jack said. And you can see some of them actually sitting right behind the cage, just in the background.
Right here.
Yep.
Do we know there's not more on the backside of this though?
There are. There's like 12 pairs there, I think.
12 pairs or 6?
I think, yeah, I was going to say, because I think there's only 12 mounting points on that stand.
Yeah, I mean, it's very confusing.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting test
basically,
article. Sorry, Jake, go ahead.
It's worth mentioning as well that the Ringwatchers, if any of you are following them on Twitter, they did actually release a new thread yesterday explaining what we can expect to see with this this cage next and S24.2. So yeah, it's worth checking that out if you want a bit more of a detailed explanation.
And if you want, while we're right in this area, we have a new flat, graded, ready for concrete area there next to the welding yard. Doesn't look like they're planning on putting any storage stands here. No embeds, no heavy rebar appearing, but Massey's is going to be getting paved some more.
Right, and we we mentioned last week that there was a filing for another structure to be constructed here at the Massey site. I think it was supposed to be like 8,500 square feet or something like that. So guessing this is where that will be located. really the only area
Yeah,
that they
I'd say
seem to
that's
be preparing right now.
quite likely.
Yeah, this will be interesting to see what they actually end up using it for. I mean, they don't have they do have a dedicated launch control center, which is located nearby this location at the Astra. Um, it's a school, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's located at the Astra School, and I've been kind of expecting at some point that they would have a more official launch control room, like not inside of a trailer. So this will be interesting to see if they actually turn it into something like that. But it could just be an operations center for the test site. But with that, let's see if we have any questions about Massey's.
I haven't pulled up any questions just yet, so maybe we can take. Is there anything else? I mean, I don't have any questions directly asked about Massey's yet.
Okay, no worries. I'm sure we got some super chats that we should probably mention.
Definitely have donations, and we have new supporters. So I'll start off with the donations, and we have gift memberships. Starting off with the donations, John Dopker donated $10 and says, "Let's get this week's train going, y'all." Jim Cabot, $10, says, "All aboard." JK Video, $10. $10 for laptop problems and doggy treats. Steve Coates donated $1.99, says, "Paying it forward a little bit." Vornada donated $20 and says, "Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening." Perpetual Nerd says donated $5 and says, "Chug, chug, chug, all aboard." James L. donated $10. Thumbs up, everyone. Essentially reminding everybody to like the stream if you're enjoying what you hear. Then we also have an €11 donation from Jacques. Thank you, Jacques, for all the gray mods. Gray mods. Nice to see you here too. And that's it for the donations. We also have gift memberships. Gift memberships starting from the top. Rocket Profit donated a whole bunch, 10 RGV photography memberships. Wow, Rocket Profit. And they went to a whole bunch of people who now have a month free of RGV Aerial, where they'll get photos and can join us in the show and tell as well as backstage. And we also have a new member. New member Imcon E donated as a RGV flight supporter. So welcome to the crew. That's it for me.
We got two questions that came through. The first one's from Crane Man. If the LR 1750 is moved or moving to Massey's, isn't it using crane mats?
Is the 1750 the one that's by Ship 26?
Yes.
Well, I guess, I mean, we don't really have any signs that it is moving here, as far as I've seen. So as we mentioned a little bit ago, they currently disconnected it from Ship 26, and they've connected it to Ship 27 instead. We can actually go ahead and move over here. So this is the LR 1750, and yeah, so right now it was connected to Ship 26, but Ship 27 is over here, which is what it's currently connected to. We haven't really seen any signs that they're going to be moving it, and in my opinion, I don't know if it would make sense, just because it seems like they may need a larger crane in order to eventually lift boosters onto test stands out there, or the whatever this is right here. So if they're going to need a crane in order to lift it onto that, then I don't think a 1750 is going to be enough to satisfy both needs. So probably see something larger, or potentially nothing at all if there's some other way of them getting this under there, which would be really interesting to see. Cool. Do we have another question on Massey's as well?
Well, it might be similar to related to Massey's. The question is from flawed perspective. How is SpaceX planning to test the hot staging? And it's not part of the question, but could they possibly test that here at Massey's if they need to?
I mean, I think it's
answer that one.
hard to answer that, right? Like we haven't even seen the test article for the hot staging ring section, and we don't know if they're going to potentially do a static fire test on top of it or something like that. Like it's really tough to tell without having seen anything related to it yet. I don't know if you guys have any other opinions on that.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how they test actually, the fiery element of it. But yeah, I was originally thinking that they could have done a test of the hot staging hardware on the Can Crusher using a booster test tank with the hot staging hardware on top of that, and then a ship skirt on top of the hot staging hardware, and then the cap pulling down and all of that. But now I'm not even sure because they're doing all this work on the Can Crusher now. So yeah, I'm not really sure what to think of it now.
Or maybe they're redoing the Can Crusher so they can do that. Or
That's a good
that
point. Yeah.
or the new pizza stone, as I'm calling it, fixture might be getting commissioned for that.
I'm not sure what you mean by the pizza stone structure.
The booster test thing between the booster stand and the ship stand at Massey's that looks like a concrete disc. Yeah,
the tambourine is what I like to call it.
So you're thinking there's a chance they might put this on top of here?
I don't know. If you look what's laying on the ground around that right now, if you zoom in on it, there are 12 fairly tall square columns that match up with the 12 mounting points on the inside edge of that disc. Interesting coinkydink.
It's also worth mentioning, just down to the right slightly, there's 12 curved pieces, very similar to what they used on the base of that pack shocker. Yeah. So they may be part of that as well.
Yeah, I think we're halfway through the development of whatever this. I think this is going to be a big thing. I think we're just barely starting to see the beginnings of it.
I wonder if it's possible that they are replacing the base of this structure or something like that, and because this is, well, I don't even know if that's possible. There's a concrete base structure in here, and I think it's really difficult for them to do tests on all 33 engines if they wanted to, as far as the hydraulic ram test. So I wonder if it's possible that they're like combining these two, like you were saying, but with the purpose of replacing the base structure on here.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one, if we remember back when they originally built this, right, they had all the legs that had Nelson studs pointing in towards the center, and then they formed up a concrete form in midair and poured a slab in the middle of this thing, 2 feet off the ground. I'm wondering if they want to make something more structural in there, because the pizza stone thing is a much more massive steel structure underneath the concrete than what's inside the Can Crusher.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting. I mean, with using this to actually pull down on the vehicle at the same time that you're pushing up, that's probably a really large amount of force on the bottom of that structure. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if it's been damaged over time. Maybe just a lot more force than it was potentially designed to originally designed for, since they've upped the thrust of the Raptors, so they're probably upping the amount of force that they're putting on the base of the structure as well too.
Yeah, I think they're 2 steps ahead of us, and we're playing guessing games trying to figure out what their game plan is.
Yeah, I feel like we do that with pretty much everything right now. So
Yeah.
For the most part.
So what else have we got at Massey's?
We got a couple more questions. Maybe we can get through those first. First one's from Shao. Could they be rebuilding the Can Crusher to avoid the use of a booster crane by allowing the use of drive-on transport stands?
I don't know how they would pull that off. I just don't know how you would be able to get a SPMTs underneath any structure like this. Yeah, I mean I'm having trouble imagining how that would work.
Yeah, I can't see it because the Can Crusher's whole purpose is the clamps up to the booster hold downs, which is how the booster's held on a transport stand. That's not near as massive as the can crusher would be. So I think you still need the crane, unfortunately.
Right.
All right, and the next question is from John Dopker. In regards to the can crusher, the new ring that's on the odd-looking test tank, are those holes the same kind of points that they put the ropes over to pull down?
Yes, they are. They are pipes with a flat plate on the end just to keep the rope from popping off the end of the pipe.
All right, and the last question is the ship test article in front of the high bay going to end up at Massey's?
Yeah, we are expecting it to go inside of that cage right in the middle of the picture there.
Yeah.
But there is a single ring still due to be stacked under what we see currently. And they did try doing that the other day, but it apparently something went wrong and they aborted that stacking. And now we're just waiting for it to be reattempted again.
Yeah, well, if you saw the single ring when it came out of high bay, you know what went wrong. It was sort of mangled.
We can address that a little bit more when we get to the build site, because I think we may have some images to show that as well too. So, I guess if we don't have any more questions from Massey's, we can.
I've got I've got 2 more highlights from Massey's. Just keep people up with what's going on if you want to pop back there real quick. So one thing, they have built themselves a new welding enclosure up there in the area, in the tank farm area. They now have 2 containers with a tent canopy straddling them. They are building themselves a nice little welding wind safe site that is new. So they have been still making more progress here. And the other thing was, if you look at the can crusher top ring that is behind booster 10, it's getting its ropes stripped.
Well, I suppose that would make sense since they're taking the actual can crusher apart.
Well, last time they did this, they were changing the ropes for different lengths for a different test article.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess we're gonna have to keep our eyes on that one.
Yeah, keep our eyes open, and hopefully we'll see if it's going to stay stripped or if there's a new set of ropes appearing.
Yeah,
I think that was the last big things from Massey's. Electrical doesn't seem to have changed much. Water is.
There is some trenching up in the top right corner of Massey's, but nothing major though. I think, yeah, right about there.
you're talking about this.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm wondering if that's going to be electrical or if maybe they're putting in for some drainage.
Yeah, kind of tough to tell there. It just looks like a ditch right now. All right, well, let's move over to the Sanchez site. We got a lot to cover today, so cool. I guess let's start over here in this bottom left corner. As you all know, we've been waiting on the ground fabrication building they're obviously reconstructing it over here. So they have finished the main pad of that building, and as y'all can tell, they are currently assembling all of the structural steel, or reassembling it. So essentially, basically the same building as it was before, originally located within the build site, but now they have relocated that over here. Let's get another image from the side right now. I almost think it's worth bringing up an older image of this just so we can kind of compare it, so we can see what orientation this building is sitting in. So let me grab one of those really quick.
Well, while you're doing that, I will sit here and mention that the blue, yes, we're not using yellow for this one, pad is being poured. That will be the first lean-to off the side of it. If we look on the other side of it, they have graded and are preparing to form up the other side building.
Yeah, that's so basically, kind of looking at it from this direction, you can see that both of these lean-tos are basically in the front of the building where the actual pizza door is, or what do we call this door?
Yeah, pizza oven door.
Pizza oven door. So that kind of gives us an idea of which direction this is going to be facing. Oops, let me again, usually with my normal setup, I'm able to go through these a little bit more smoothly, so y'all are gonna have to bear with me if you're joined late. Yeah, I'm still having some computer issues, but we'll be fine. So yeah, you can tell that the front of the building will be right here with the garage door right here in the front. So yeah, this will. I think the one on the lean-to on this side is a little bit larger than the one here, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this is kind of a tight
Mauricio,
space for this building.
so it's maybe useful to get the pole cam out again if the entrance is facing straight towards Highway 4.
Yeah, I mean, well, we could see a lot from that ground view. I think we have some ground images that we can check out here. One of the things that I was about to mention is that they have already installed the bridge crane inside of there, which we can probably see better from the ground. If I can find what I'm looking for, that is the Mega Bay or Star Factory. Go. So yeah, here it is from the front. Looking at it from the ground view, you can see that they've dropped that 12-ton bridge crane in there. Oh yeah, this is the same one that was originally in the structure. As I mentioned, all of this is basically the same. Nothing really new, but great to see that this building didn't die altogether.
Well, I can tell you that the ground fab department is very happy to see this coming along quickly.
It's really weird that it looks yellow from up here and everything from the ground view is black.
I think the top face of it, they didn't paint the top, they painted the rest of it SpaceX black.
Oh, nobody will see the top. Yeah, so moving on, they SpaceX has moved all of the transport jigs, I guess, and assembly jigs for the transporting the steel sandwich over to the launch site. So it looks like these are probably going to be scrapped here soon. I think it's funny how it's interesting to me, especially with this one, that building this just for a single move like that. But I guess they do stuff like that pretty regularly. But I'm guessing we'll probably actually see these scrapped here soon, just because they're kind of taking up space, and they are running out of space, if you ask me. I guess pretty soon they will. Let me get a better image of that. Kind of regain the area they have over here, because they're nearing completion, I guess, of the Mega Bay as far as constructing all these sections go. So right now, this is the last section of the 4th level, and this is the first section of the 5th level. So there's only 3 of them left to construct after this one is complete. And once that is done, they'll be able to reclaim this area over here. But one of the interesting things that I've been kind of waiting on is the bridge crane for this building. So when SpaceX constructed the first Mega Bay, the 2 bridge cranes showed up like right about now. So as far as like in the same level of progress with the building. So right when they were about to lift this one, this corner piece is when the bridge crane showed up. So I'm assuming that we'll probably see those 2 bridge cranes arrive within the next week, and that's kind of my guess that I've been saying within my Discord server. I told them that if these cranes don't show up within the next week, then I'm quitting. So they're gonna hold me to that, but we'll see. Hopefully those cranes are on the road. But they did have a booster transport stand that was sitting inside of here, and that has since moved over to the village area, so their crane parking lot. I can probably just show that really quick. So they moved the booster transport stand that was at Sanchez over to here, which was kind of odd. And the only reason I can really think of to do something like that is just clearing up space in general. So I think it was sitting. I think it was sitting right here, and
It was sitting pretty much where that vertical tank's being worked on, I
in
think,
the
or
front
right
corner.
next to where it was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually, I
so
think it's where that ring stand piece is below the vertical tank. Yeah, right there.
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it was right down here because this has been here for a few weeks now, getting worked on. But that's kind of what I've been assuming, just as far as trying to come up with a reason to move a booster transport stand way over there, is that they're kind of running out of space right now, and they have 2 really large items. I guess it's actually 6 large items because it's they have the 4 bridge crane girders and then the actual trolley. So yeah, they're gonna have to bring those, and basically they need an area where they can paint them because they're more than likely going to show up yellow. So they're probably going to paint them white, paint a gray mustache on both of them, which is what they did to the first one for some reason. And
Yeah.
they're going to need some space to do that. So I think it's probably going to happen right here, which is basically what happened last time.
Well, while you're right there, Zach, want to make a comment on those white pillars there?
Yeah, this one's pretty interesting. I looked at this last night and I was kind of a little confused trying to figure out what's going on here, but definitely some sort of ring stand for something. It's very interesting just having these the holes through these boxes, and it looks like they're connecting the like flat plates in between the boxes. And honestly, I haven't had too much time to actually think about this one and kind of figure out what's going on here. Do you guys have any ideas?
Well, I'll point out one thing. If you look at the white boxes and look at the edges facing each other, they are rusty, which means I expect there's going to be a lot of vertical and horizontal welded structure between these, and that the piece they're lifting in now is only the first of what will probably be multiple layers or frames of structure tying this ring together. Also, 12 square boxes look an awful lot like the 12 square posts that were over on the Pizza Stone at Massey's. Not that I'm going to make any strong bet on that, but
Yeah, I was kind of thinking something similar. It could be possible that this is related to that. A bit surprised they wouldn't be working on it over there, but I guess they can always
Space?
transport it. Yeah.
As you were saying, working space. This looks like another ground fab project, and they're sort of picking up any square footage they can find anywhere around the site.
You know what? This also looks similar to. I mean, it's definitely not this, but it looks very similar. Like, what if you redesigned the orbital launch mount and the cubbies, the areas where the the hold down arms are, like where they flip out from, like they kind of put them inside of a box instead. It looks kind of similar in that layout, but it's nowhere near as large as that is. So
The
I'm gonna
fact
throw
that you
that
have
idea.
the fact that you have the walkway ovals through each box is very similar to the OLM.
Yeah. Yeah, this one was a bit of a surprise because we've actually been looking at these boxes for a few weeks and kind of just wondering what their purpose is. But yeah, hopefully they'll get this set up really quickly and we'll actually be able to figure that out. I think this other ring section down here, painted white, may actually be related to it as well. Just spitballing that based on the color of it. So I would say this is like one of my favorite things about Sanchez is just like trying to figure out what they're doing over here, because this is kind of like the mystery area where it takes like sometimes weeks or months for us to be able to actually determine what's going on down here. And there's so many different like frames, like there's all these different random framing pieces for
Well,
different items down here that.
actually, yeah, I was going to say those frames right there. The question was asked last night. Do the two frames under that white canopy sort of look like OLM door frames?
No, they're too. There's quite a lot of depth to those.
Well, yeah. I mean, so one thing I guess to consider is that the door, the one door on the OLM got blown off during the last launch attempt. So there is a chance that maybe they want to put a bigger door frame in there so that it's more reinforced. I don't know, like a recessed
I
doorway
think it,
instead of one that's sticking over the edge of the table.
that's a good point. Yeah.
But there's 4 of them, so we do have. How many cutouts are currently in the top of the launch mount? Let's just actually go over and look at a ground image really quick, because this is a. So we have one here. There's the one over there, one right here, and then I think there's one more on the far side.
No, they're just the two doors that with the blast doors on them. Then there's that new one above this new set of stairs there. And then there's the other set of stairs, but that goes right in through the bottom of the walkway.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's just the 3 doors.
Yeah, I suppose it wouldn't be impossible for that to be a frame that goes in here, because that's one thing that we're going to be waiting on actually to see is what they'll do with this stairway area, because this one like really does look semi-temporary as far as like the fact that it's so far exposed on the outside of the launch mount. So they'll probably have to have some sort of like slanted canopy on the top of it. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they end up doing that. But I think it's maybe possible that those pieces could be related to that. I guess we'll have to keep our eyes on that as well too over the next few weeks. These have been here for a while though, and what I'm noticing is that maybe there is actually only 2 of them, because these ones don't have holes through them. So,
Or they're rotated 90. We just can't see the other side faces.
very possible as well. Oh wow, you know what I just noticed over here? It looks like all of these, they have all of the boxes out here, but there's still these almost look like an IKEA set where you like have stacks of them and you assemble them into these.
Well,
they
but
all,
it's sitting.
they
It
all,
has the bottom frame of like the others with the pentagonal shoe on the bottom, sort of. If you look how the others are sitting.
Yeah, I think these are the sidewalls for this. Is there more of them? Shiny object. Well, I guess I'll keep our eyes out and see if we can find more of those. But yeah, sorry, just noticed that out of nowhere. Where were we?
Okay, I'm gonna retract my further guess. It looks like there's 10 of these, not 12.
Yeah. You know what would be cool is if it was related to like I mean it's a little tall for that, but we are expecting them to at some point do some sort of water cooled structure on the top of the launch mount. So whether that's going to be able to be incorporated into its existing structure, or if it has to be like a major reconfiguration for the top deck of the launch mount, I guess that's something that we should be on the lookout for as well at some point, is some sort of water system for the top of the table. I don't think that's what this is. It doesn't look. I highly doubt they would paint it white if that was the case. So, but just something to be on the lookout for. But one more thing to mention over here: I believe this is a heat exchanger, right? They have been insulating this, and I think it's like double insulated. I'm gonna see if I can find a ground image of this actually really quick. Wrong
All I
direction.
know, all I know is it's a vertical tank. I'm not sure if it's a heat exchanger or what, but it's very intriguing. And when we get over to the launch site, it looks like they have poured a footing pad to mount a vertical tank on. That might be this one.
Let's see here. Yeah, I wasn't really sold on it being a heat exchanger, but a lot of folks in the chat from the last episode were actually sending me like examples of what they thought it was. So that is the only guess that we really have so far. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that this is insulated. It obviously suggests that there will be some sort of cryogenic fluid in here. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I've got an idea about it, but yeah, we can talk about that more when we get to the launch site.
cool. All right, well, I guess I'll go back over to the aerials. So we covered all of the Megabase stuff.
I've actually got one more Megabay question. I'm forgetful. Megabay 1 was section 5 single height or double height?
Double. So I may even be able to go back and pull up some older images of it. Because I believe they finished it in like February 2022. So let's see if I can find us a good image of that. I think this one will do. 1 second. Oh, that really sucks. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I don't have my my Stream Deck available today, so I'm doing things the old school way, dragging stuff around on a screen. So, yeah, this is about the same time. So I guess this is where the same level at where the Megabay is right now, minus this corner section right here. So these are the final sections that go on top, and they were double sections, as I mentioned, as you were saying, Dave.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember if they had to change the lift because of the crane configuration will be changing after section 4 finishes.
Yeah. And one thing to mention over here. Actually, I don't know if it's gonna. Where's all the other images? It's just a single image right here. Okay. Well, never mind that. I was going to show us the actual Sanchez site, which I'm still going to do actually because we're already here. So at this time, the same time that they were, or basically the same level as they are right now with the Megabay, they already had both of those bridge cranes show up. So as I was saying at the beginning, or a few minutes ago, I'm definitely expecting to see these arrive at least within the next 7 days, but for sure within the next 2 weeks, just specifically for that purpose of painting them. But yeah, I mean, SpaceX tends to have everything early, so things rarely show up as needed. They're usually there early. So yeah, we'll keep our eyes out for that. And I'm gonna send an angry email to Stream Deck after this and try and figure out what's going on with my system over here.
Okay, so while you're here, zoom in the bottom right-hand corner of this frame, that fenced-in area.
I can get a better image of that.
That's actually a really good image. They have created the electrical wire storage yard.
There we go. Some 4K action there. Yeah, so they created this pad about a week or two ago. Sanchez is just in general their massive storage site for pretty much everything right now. But yeah, I mean they did have a lot more just random items out here, but that was before before they moved the pancake out of the what is this building called?
Inventory tent.
Inventory tent, yeah. Such a basic
That's
word,
what,
but I always forget the name of it.
that's what we call it, at least.
Yeah, so they had all this extra stuff out here because the front half of the inventory tent was taken up as they were working on that pancake. So yeah, this area is kind of cleaned up since they've moved that out. They've been able to add all the storage racks back in there. Still, I do think that at some point we'll probably see them not increase the size of this one, but possibly build another one over here. Not a whole lot of room to do it until they kind of get rid of some of the stuff that's in here. In particular, I think we're definitely going to be seeing some action with the air separation plant soon. They've been delivering even more equipment, so I think these two white tanks right here are new.
They are brand new, and they really do. Unlike a lot of SpaceX tanks, these actually do look brand new.
Yeah, that's a shocker. But I mean, these are, as far as we know, a part of the air separation plant, and they've been kind of working to or clear this area over here. So I think someone was saying that the scrapyard moved, but as far as I can
Yes,
tell,
it
it's
has.
still
No,
down here.
Look up at the look at the corner right there. There's the new scrapyard.
Yeah, I guess that does look a little more scrappy than this
And
does.
if you look in the top dumpster, I think there's a one ring that came out of the high bay from the mist stack 2 days ago, or whatever that was. And that booster 8 section is losing its top ring in pieces.
Well, that one is a long time coming. The Booster 8 has been sitting there for a very long time, so interesting that they're finally getting along to scrapping that. I'm guessing they kind of need that space now finally, so just take care of those things as needed.
So now that this is the scrapyard for this week, what is the pad in where the scrapyard was going to be?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, they do have to expand all of this, and we've seen all of these are chiller boxes. I forget.
They're heat exchangers, yeah.
Yeah. So all these heat exchangers, which I was assuming that they would be located somewhere near these ones and kind of just in line with them, so they can expand the capacity of this. But with this in the way, I don't know if they have room unless they offset it. So we did see them pour this concrete pad last week, and we're kind of thinking that there was going to be a possibility that it had some embeds in it, which would either be an additional Raptor install stand or potentially another staging pad for a booster or a ship, but it's just a bare concrete pad, so not as exciting as
Yep.
I was hoping. I was kind of trying to see from a few different angles to see if maybe we're just missing all the embeds in it, but nope.
All I see is a really nice center mark marked from the two corners. Or four corners.
So no idea what's going to end up going there. Maybe it's a possibility that they'll just throw all those vertical tanks on here for some reason, but
while you have this image up, we have most of the end of the inventory tent has been reestablished, and I'm sure the inventory people will be happy to have their parts racks filling that space that used to have a shower head plate in it.
It's like we're doing some road demolishing over here. That's kind of random. Concrete doesn't survive long out here. Excuse me.
So you can see they've got sand laid down there next to the crane. I suspect that was cushioning to go under some crane mats when they moved the crane over to pick up 27 or hook onto 27.
Sorry, say that again?
Well, so the crane hooked onto 27, I suspect it may have moved a little bit at the same time, and all that sand there would be a place to put some crane mats.
Oh, just right here.
Yeah, where the Bobcat's busy leveling it.
Yeah, I'm guessing they're probably just going to do some work on the inside of 27. It's kind of weird that it's been that the crane's been connected to 26 as long as it has. I think it's been like, I don't know, 3 months at this point. And you would think that it would be able to support itself being pressurized and whatnot. So, I feel like this kind of held up work on 27 just because they maybe need that crane in order to get inside of it. But at the same time, they're just way ahead on starships anyways. So, they're probably have been holding off on the internal work that they need to do on this for a while now. But, it's kind of interesting that they are starting to work on it again. I have a feeling that means that we should expect to see it move to the Massey site within the next, well, I'm not going to put a time on it, but whenever they finish what they're doing, I think we'll probably see it move to Massey soon.
Yeah, I would expect it won't be very long, given that the ship puck shucking configuration looks like it's complete at Massey's.
I feel like we've kind of covered everything at the Sanchez site, so I want to make sure that we don't have any questions from the audience before I move on to the build site area. I'm not sure if we have Jack with us over there too.
We do have questions for Sanchez. So the first question's from Helios. Oh, my bad. Roy, I think there's not much space to go in and out of the ground fabrication building. Roughly how many meters do they have to maneuver equipment? Maybe we can have Jake answer this one to rotate.
I'm not sure exact meterage, but I'd say there's a decent amount of space there between the entrance of that building and the container wall.
Yeah, if you look at the gantry crane that's up in the corner there, they've built 9-meter rings inside that, and they've got more space than that gantry crane takes up in front of the ground fab building.
Were you gonna add something, Jake?
No, that's pretty much yeah, all I gotta say on that one. It's that yeah, they'd be fine getting different items in and out of that building.
Cool. Any other questions, Mauricio?
Yeah, the next question's from MTAM. Could these be parts for lower shielding on the OLM? I believe they're referring to the white pieces, or what?
Oh, yeah, I guess we're not really sure what they are referring to. Are they talking about these?
Yeah, I believe that question came through around that time that you were covering that.
Lower shielding.
Well, now that you're in that image, I mean, there's another question related to that. Might as well ask it. I'm not sure what the snowflake shaped structures, black and white, near the inventory. Oh, that's a different one. Near the inventory tent, the same as the speculated floor on S22 nose cone. So apparently there's another snowflake structure over by the inventory tent, but you can get to that after you answer this question.
Oh, I know what he's talking about. The snowflake is a load spreader that would have come from Star Factory.
Oh, these?
Yeah, that's the ones.
I'm sorry, Mauricio. What was the question again?
The first question was, could these be parts for the lower shielding of the OLM? And maybe M-Time, if you're in the chat, if you want to clarify what pieces you're referring to.
Yeah, if they're talking about these ones, I doubt it.
Yeah, we sort of have the symmetry problem. This is a 10-sided thing, and the OLM is 6-sided or 12-sided, depending how you want to look at it. So 10-sided tends to fit well with 20 engines for boosters.
Yeah, I guess in the questions, when we ask the questions, if y'all can help us out with what item we're referring to on the questions, just because the stream is a little delayed. So it might not match up when, I get the messages here. The last question here is from Stephen Lewis. Would the new Mega Bay be taller or the same size as the current Mega Bay?
I
same.
don't think we know. Well, if it's anything like the renders that we've seen of Roberts Road, where this bay was originally due to go, it does look like it will be possibly the same height as the current Mega Bay. So yeah, I think it probably will be the same height.
All right, and that's all we have here for the questions. And I guess we can move on to the build site.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find a good image that shows the entire thing at one time. There we go. Yeah, so now we're at the build site, and as I mentioned, as we were just kind of just talking about, these two buildings will be the exact same. There's not really a whole lot of difference for them to be, or a reason for them to be any different. I mean, boosters aren't going to get too much taller than what they are right now, other than adding that extra ring section on there. So I think there's not really any reason for it to end up being taller. But yeah, I also think we'd probably see extra reinforcement on it if it was any taller than what it is. I think it would probably be designed slightly beefier. But yeah, they're making tons of progress on it right now. Let me look at it from another angle over here.
Well, aside from the foundation, right? That is beefier than the original Mega Bay.
The foundation is beefier, yes, but the actual the rest of the structure is essentially identical. So yeah, I mean, and I kind of think the additional reinforcement on the foundation of this, as far as having the piles in the ground and whatnot, is probably just related to its position, and also the fact that I've kind of been thinking for a while that just based on data that I've been able to find, the wind is normally moving from in this direction, and so it's not normally blowing in through the front door of this building, but here it will be basically coming straight in through the front door. So I think there is possibly some relation to that, as far as the fact that this may have more wind loading than the other buildings do. So other than that, I guess just in general instability in this area, in the soil, and as compared to over here, really the only other reason I can think of why they upgraded that foundation. But yeah, other than that, pretty much identical.
And that was all. Yeah, go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, so I mean, they've made a lot of progress with the stairs out here. They're kind of cranking those out. I'm actually surprised that well, I guess maybe not, that they haven't actually started lifting the stairs into here. So, I guess the main reason for that is probably because this crane has been tied up lifting these sections all the time, so it's not really having a lot of time to actually go and lift those stairs in there. So, yeah, great progress on this. I'm really excited for this to be nearing completion. And speaking of that, if we look at the other Mega Bay, and I want to show this one from the ground.
Yeah, I was just saying they seem to have got quite a nice balance for the construction of Mega Bay 2 now, in terms of assembling the sections and getting them stacked each time. They seem to have got it just right now.
Yeah, they have it pretty well. I actually think the lift and assembly crew is ahead of the ground pre-assembly crew for the corner sections.
Yeah. What I was going to say is that they have made a lot of progress removing the scaffolding, at least on the backside. I didn't really realize how much was still on the front side until I just looked at that other image, but still got some work to do. I guess it's only about a quarter of the building which they've removed it on. But yeah, so I guess that just means that they're doing the final finishes on the for the windows. I'm guessing
there's still one missing on the right hand side at least, but I think I can see a small gap in the windows.
Yeah, I think this is their loading dock. So when they're bringing anything, lifting anything into the building, they're doing it through this location. So
And it
start
does look like they've. Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that's new on top there. Well, I'm guessing that's why they got a scaffolding tower going to the top for that new
I
dish
think,
on the left there.
yeah, the left dish is new. The right dish has been there.
Well, let me go back to those aerial images really quick. And I don't think we're going to have Jax with us today. So
I was going to say, while you have this image up in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got two changes. A, the parking lot has been striped and is in use. And B, the Olympus Mons AstroTurf area is getting the AstroTurf relayed on it instead of removed.
Yeah, I feel like that probably should have been car park as well. That extra bit of lander.
I agree with you. I said that the last 2 weeks. I thought they were going to continue the concrete, but it looks like they're rolling the AstroTurf back out for some reason.
Yeah, that's a particularly strange decision they've made there.
yeah, nice little visitor area, maybe places where people can sit over here and take pictures of the rocket garden when they're out here. I mean, it would be. I highly doubt they'll bring those the airstreams back out here. So, yeah, I was definitely expecting this to be a parking lot as well.
They did use that area as the band and event area for the big post IFT-1 launch party. So maybe they're thinking they're going to have something they need to have this as extra party space in the future. I don't know.
Is a possibility. Well, let's move over to the front side of the ring yard. Wow, can't even talk today. So we kind of mentioned a little bit ago that the test article down here for the payload section, I guess they had some sort of a mishap with it as far as the stacking it onto the single ring section. And I don't know if we have any images of that yet.
Yeah, I can try and explain it briefly what actually happened with that. So basically, they needed to put another single ring on the underside of that test article. But the issue they had is they don't have a robotic welder in a high bay that can weld at that level. So what they tried to do was put the single ring on top of a undeveloped ship thrust sleeve. I don't know if they actually just simply just placed it on top or if they just tack welded it on. And then they tried stacking what you see now on the screen. They tried stacking that on top of the single ring. And then something seemed to have gone wrong with it. Because about 12 hours later, we saw this come back out without the ring attached to the bottom of it, and we saw the single ring come back out with the lead-ins all damaged in the top of the single ring. So yeah, we're not exactly sure what happened, but it was unsuccessful stacking by the looks of it.
Yeah, I don't. I was looking in my Discord server to see if I could find some images of it really quick, but it's going to take me too long to find that. So, let me look at this from the aerial view because Mauricio had some pretty good shots showing the inside of the Mega Bay. Does it show any of that stuff still in there? I'm guessing all of that was scrapped by the time this was taken, right?
No, it's still there on that turntable at the back. That's the four-ring ship's thrust sleeve with a single ring on top, I think. But that ring did come back out later in the day, the single ring.
Wait, so okay, so you said they put the ring section on top of a different ring section in order to stack it?
Yeah, basically they created stilts out of a undeveloped ship's thrust sleeve to try and stack the single ring with S24.2.
Yeah, the problem is the welding robots are 4 rings off the floor. So they had to lift the single ring up to the height of the welding robot and then lift the payload bay section on top of that so they could try to do their fancy weld 4 rings off the floor instead of on the floor.
Yeah. I unfortunately don't have much to add on that one because I haven't been paying attention as much to build site.
Neither have I, but thank you to the Ringwatchers. I've been being kept abreast of it.
Yeah. Is there anything else you guys wanted to mention at the ring yard?
Yeah, it's a man that just didn't
I think you broke up a little bit there, Jake.
Mid bay's not really much seen going on over there now, because I speculated. I said we've got the mid bay, but there's not really a lot seen over there these days. I think everything's internal inside the nose cone assembly now.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a little bit low action at the build site lately. Go ahead.
What I can tell you though is there's the single ring with all the big cutouts in it that we speculated was hot stage and hardware Pathfinder is now gone. They finally scrapped it in the end.
Yeah, it looks a lot. I mean, I was thinking it looks kind of boring out here because there's a lot less ring sections out here, and you can tell. I feel like they've scrapped a lot of stuff. There's a ton more empty ring sections out here than there was before. I don't know if it's worth pulling up a before and after of that, but yeah. So I mean, somebody asked earlier in the show like when we should expect to see them do the structural test for that hot staging section, and we just still don't know the answer to that because we haven't seen the only prototype that we've seen for it. The Pathfinder has been scrapped at this point, and we haven't seen any other versions of that come out of these tents yet. So, assuming that they're probably still being worked on in one of these tents, I'm guessing they're going to need at least two of them immediately. So, probably one for Booster 9 and one for an actual test article. And I don't know. I feel like that's interesting that we haven't seen it yet because of the fact that they're planning to use it on the next launch. But yeah, I mean, it's. I'm hoping that within the next few weeks we'll see that. I know we're expecting Booster 9 to probably roll out. I don't know. Some people think it's going to roll out within the next day. I personally don't think we'll see it for at least another 2 weeks. And part of that reason is because they simply don't have enough power at the launch site to do anything other than put it on the launch mount and like do basic function tests. So like they could probably do like igniter tests on it, but that's all. So right now they have no generators at the orbital farm, and they are not done. I highly doubt the new power system is actually active. So I just don't think the orbital farm is in a state to do testing yet.
Yeah,
but
plus
we'll address it again when we get there.
yeah, plus I think they're going to want to properly test the water-cooled steel plate system without a booster in the way first.
Well,
Agreed.
I mean, the booster sort of is protected because right now they've got the dance floor part, whatever you want to call it, under the OLM. So between the engines and the deluge plate.
Wait, say that again?
Well, so the BART dance floor is still under the OLM. So if they tested the deluge system, the dance floor would be a shower cap below the booster.
Gotcha. I think it might help if we have some visuals, so we'll talk about that again when we get to the launch complex. I think a lot of people don't know the acronyms for a lot of those equipment as well too, so we'll explain those as well when we get over there. But yeah, let's move over to the Star Factory since there's not a ton to talk about at the ring section right now, or sorry, ring yard. So Star Factory, on the other hand, is making a ton of progress. So as y'all can see, they have started laying out the floor for the next part of the next zone of the building. So all of the actual foundations for the columns have been placed, and I mean they're moving really fast with getting the concrete down there for this one. And of course, we also have the first roofing sections that are up here. So that's a really good sign. They're moving pretty quick out here. One thing that go ahead.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, I was about to say about the we noticed that the roofing sections are now going over the top of the press pit. So it looks like that the press machine's probably going to be rolled underneath the fully assembled roof at a later date.
Yep. Also, we notice right where your cursor is, that's a bunch of conduit in like 4 different spots inside that pad, and then off to the left of the pad, there's more conduit coming up out of the ground. So there's going to be a power section over here, but they haven't poured the slabs yet, so they can't finish this corner of the building because they got no place to anchor the columns. So I think this building's going to have a little corner cutout for a week or two while the electrical system is completed. The rest of the building, though, they are 1 column from the end wall. If you go up, the slab ends 1 column from where they've already got roof up. So this building will be almost complete except for the press pit corner. They could have this whole thing roofed in, another week or so.
I feel like a week is a bit optimistic because they've done just this part in the last week. So I mean, it could go pretty quickly, but I feel like that is just a little bit of a optimistic guess right there.
Well, they've also done 5 bays of roof beams in the last week or something because everything to the left of the press pit is all new roof.
Right.
And then if we continue upward, they poured a quarter of the slab for the next piece, roughly. But interesting development from last week. The interesting piece of property there that they were not encroaching on, they have now taken the right-of-way for Weems and poured the foundations in it. So they are really pushing hard up against this piece of property.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think at least we won't see anything over here until at least the late August is when they're expected to settle that situation, right?
Yeah, early August, I think the 6th.
Yeah.
Is the next date on the court calendar. I don't know if that's final, but yeah.
Right.
And they're already on the Route 4 side. They are already cutting the pads for the columns for the remainder of this side of the Star Factory, and this will be the exterior wall facing Route 4. Should be.
Yeah, and you can see as well that there's extra reinforcements for those pillars too, with all the extra footings between the big ones.
Yeah, so I think this is going to be a higher bay part of the building, which we expect for nose cones. And I also suspect it may have some different architectural features on this one wall with the extra columns. Might be, something for Purdy or something facing the outside. And if you look at the parking lot, there is a new 8-foot wood privacy fence.
Wait, sorry, where?
Route 4 parking lot?
Oh, right here.
Yep.
Yeah, these guys are moving super quick. I mean, it seems like they're I want to say in a rush to get it done, but not really because this is about the same rate that they constructed the one in Florida. But they're definitely moving really fast with this structure. You kind of mentioned, Dave, that you thought there's going to be a kind of a firewall on one side of the building.
Yeah.
Right?
If you actually look, this view, if you zoom in way in on it, those columns have tabs on them for Ziegert or something similar. And Billy Kid and I were looking at this last night. Those are very different columns than we see anywhere else in the building. They are cross-shaped, so they've got 4 webs and 4 flanges, and the
I think I have
outside
some ground
flange,
images of that.
yeah, the outside flange has tabs for Ziegert. Philly and I were discussing the possibility that this could just be a firewall, that they have to put a 1 or 2 hour firewall between the sections of the factory. So that would basically mean that it will be built like 2 buildings, but the 2 buildings would be like a foot apart or less.
I don't know if I have any images from that front side of it. Let's see. Nope, that is the Mega Bay section. Okay, sorry, I was looking for one that was going to show it from the ground view from the front. I don't think there may be one from the second set of ground images, which I don't have open right now, because Mauricio did actually go out there twice this week. So I will probably check on those a little bit later if I remember to go back to them. Nope, we're not gonna be able to see it there. Cool. Yeah, I guess you can decently see it from the air though. And sorry for going through those images so fast, everybody. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, some of the tools I use on the stream are broken right now, so kind of have to do things that way. But yeah, so I actually went back and checked the original or the Star Factory at Roberts Road just to see if they had anything like this down there, and it definitely is different than that structure. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see if they do that again down here, like, because this appears to be a different type of wall.
Yeah, that's another one that's got a very different footing, much smaller pads, and then that long continuous pad for the one. So again, I think there's a operational need for a different type of wall inside the building at this point, whatever that might be.
Yeah, this one almost looks like, if I had to just take a guess of what something like this would be for, because the way that all of the conduit is kind of randomly splayed out here, like this almost looks like where you might have like a row of like your tile pinning stations. So like where they go and have the welding robots install the tile pins on the ship. This almost looks like they're getting set up for some stations like that, but that's just a total guess. And honestly, I don't think we'll ever really know the answer to that.
Oh, I think we will find out. I'll give us less than a year, and somebody like Tim Dodd will do a tour of the Star Factory with Elon, and it'll be, oh, that's what it was. Will be the aha moment. But yeah, it's very obvious that they know exactly what's going in every square foot of this factory, and power and utilities are getting dropped specifically for each area.
Yeah, it would be awesome to see that floor plan. I'm hoping that Tim does not do his tour until they finish this.
Well,
cool.
the rate that Elon is doing his Starbase updates, that could be the same time.
Possibly. Do we have any questions in this area that we should touch on, Mauricio?
Yeah, we have a question here, and I'm going to throw it to Dave to answer this one from the Everyday Makers. Would we assume they're going to add the small 2-story storage structure to the back of the new Mega Bay?
Okay, so
I'll let Zack answer that one. He's got as good a guess as me.
I mean, we've kind of mentioned this before, but one of the differences between these two buildings, obviously, is the fact that there's, this is off the property line right here. So if there is an office building on the backside of this, or sorry, Raptor storage, that's what they're doing in here, is storing Raptor engines. I think that'll be a bit of an issue, just because they'll maybe just have to expand back into the wetland area, which would be a problem. I think they'll have to go through the Army Corps of Engineers in order to do that. Unless they somehow are able to fit a road on this small sliver of land, I feel like it's not as likely for us to see that back here on this one.
What if they put the door on the side instead of the backside?
That would work. Yeah.
Yeah, they could. I mean, I think right now the Raptor deliveries, I don't remember if they back into the building or they unload parallel to the building on the street alongside it where that painted out crosswalk is, but it would be very tight back behind there. But they do appear to have a slab back there, so it's possible. Or it might be a little smaller building. It may not be the same depth.
All right, we got another question. I'll throw this one to Jake. What is that underground rectangle in the new Star Factory? And maybe you can explain what that will be used for.
Okay, so the square, as we've been talking about for about 2 months now, from when they started building the massive foundation for this, appears to be a press pit for probably a stamping press or something like that, for sheet metal forming. And given that they have been buying a lot of stamped material from outside for things like all of the stiffeners and ribs and stringers, that could very well be what goes here. It will be a whole bunch of trucks that we'll be keeping our eyes open for deliveries soon.
All right, and we have another question. I'll let Jake answer this one. From F14D Jared. At the current rate, when would Bay 2 be capable of building vehicles? Jake?
Still with us, Jake? Cool. I can answer that one, I guess. I feel like we're probably, I don't know, at least 2 months out. So they'll have this corner section probably lifted by, I would guess, Monday or Tuesday, and then probably another week and a half at least for the top section. And then building out the roof and all that stuff takes probably about a month. But the thing is that what they can do is install the bridge cranes and potentially start working early. So like as long as the bridge cranes are in there and there's an actual floor on the roof, they will probably be safe to start doing assembly in there, which is kind of what they did last time. But yeah, I would say my best guess is probably just about 2 to 2.5 months away, maybe.
Yeah, I'd probably say 3 to 4. Even when they have all the walls up, but first of all, they have to put all the rest of the skins on, which is probably another week or two minimum, maybe more. And then they got to put a lot of the conduit and electrical and other stuff on the inside.
All right, and that was it for the questions for the build site. You can move on to the next section. Zach.
Cool. All right. Well, let's go just take a look over in the village area. There's not a ton happening over here right now. They're still working back here in the to like kind of do all the groundwork for where they're going to have all the housing. But it looks about the same as last week, in my opinion.
I
So I don't
suppose,
think there's.
yeah, I suppose the road's built up ever so slightly more, maybe.
I think that
Yeah,
little
about it.
the little spur coming off the road looks new.
This?
Coming down, yeah,
Yeah,
that right there.
that's definitely new.
And I think they've the extension of the diagonal road at the end looks like they're a little more complete there behind the Airstream Park.
Are you talking about this one?
No, the
Or
other
this one?
diagonal. Yeah, that one. And where it crosses the other road behind everybody's backyard.
I gotta say, when I go out there, there's a big drop off from that main road, the one that's already been paved back there. So yeah,
Which
the
one?
ground,
This one?
yeah, that road. When I pull up to that one, there's a big drop off from there to to the ground. So there's gonna be a lot of filling to be done on that.
Well, that's good because that means it won't be a mud flat anymore.
So it drops down here in this towards this direction.
Yeah, I mean, by several
Guess
feet,
you can
maybe
kinda see the
about
slope.
1 or 2 feet. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it from here, the big dropper.
Yeah, just to the left of your cursor, you can see the dirt build up where those two houses are on the edge of their lots.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to really suck for the other property owners because SpaceX is going to raise the grade of all their properties, and every other property is going to be 2 feet below it in a mud pit.
You can see where a lot of new property is going to go at the top, right in the middle of the screen there. You can see all the markings in the ground there. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they're about to finally start working on those. I mean, like I said, I think this looks almost identical to last week. I don't see much going on back here from what we can tell. But um, moving over to the actual, oh man, I always forget the name of this building too. It's like something that we just
Payload
read.
processing.
Payload processing. So this has been kind of interesting this week. They brought out the PEZ loader installer or PEZ dispenser installer,
Yes,
or whatever
as
you want to call
loader.
it. Yeah. So as you guys can tell, it's all wrapped up in plastic, which is really odd. I've been thinking about this, just kind of trying to make sense out of it, and the only thing I can think of is the fact that it's really dusty out here, and they more than likely, if they brought this out here, is usually because they're delivering Starlinks here, and what I'm thinking is that they've completely covered this in order to keep it clean while it's out here. Just because they want to keep this entire building as clean as possible, and so leaving this sitting out here for a few days or however long it's out here is enough to make them want to actually cover it for that reason. That's the only thing I can come up with for this. Have you guys got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm just curious to know why it's been chucked outside like that. You know, what they doing inside the building to warrant this, doing that.
Yeah, I've always thought this entire setup is interesting. The fact that they have to move this out of the building in order to bring trucks in here, because you would think they'd be able to drive them in through the back door, but there's really nowhere, not a lot of clearance for them to pull trucks in through here. So,
Yeah, it's not ideal.
yeah, and I don't think we should be expecting them to see them load Starlinks on anything for, I don't know, at least another 4 or 5 months, if not longer. So.
Yeah.
Odd to even have Starlinks being delivered to the site, I would say, unless, yeah, I guess you got to kind of wonder, when they actually expected to be, like internally, like when they expected to be launching Starlinks. So I'm wondering if they potentially ramped up their Starlink production, their Starlink 2 production, assuming that by now they would have already been launching payloads on Starship. So it'll be. I wonder if they just have like a huge stockpile of Starlink 2s somewhere, because they can't really fit that many of them on a Falcon 9. So I wonder what the actual backlog of V2s looks like.
Well, I've got an interesting question / thought. If we looked at the last two Starlink 2 mini launches on Falcon, a majority of them, from what I've seen, did not survive and get lifted to full orbit. Most were deorbited with problems. So I'm wondering if any of the full-size Starlinks 2s that they had here may be getting either reworked here or getting sent back up to Washington to solve whatever they may have discovered on the Falcon launches.
Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't really heard anything else about that situation, but they have continued to launch the V2s, though, right?
Yes, in fact, there's a launch tonight.
Yeah, I'm pretty
But Jonathan McDowell
sure.
has been. Yeah, I was going to say Jonathan McDowell's been tracking him, and they've deorbited a large number of the V2s.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure after this this next launch, which is going to be version 1.5 satellites, I'm pretty sure it's going to be all V2s from now on Falcon.
Yeah, this has been declared as the last version 1.5 launch. The orbital plane for 1.5 will be complete. And they have filed paperwork with the FAA saying, hey, because we're a little delayed on this big thing we're doing in Boca Chica, can we launch V2s to replace V1s and 1.5s in our existing shells as they start aging out?
Sorry about that. I was trying to download some stuff in the background here because when we go to the launch site, I want to talk about, or excuse me, let Mauricio share some video and images from this project that he's been working on. So Mauricio, are you with us right now?
Yeah, I'm right here.
Awesome. So where do you want to start off with? Do you want to start off with the 3D models of this, or do you want to show the video? I guess we can just explain what the idea of what you're trying to do is first, and then we will kind of show some footage.
All right. So the general idea of this is I was actually trying to just create new projects to kind of like a science project kind of thing, just to experiment with the water cooled steel plate. Right now, there's a lot of questions to be answered on how exactly the water cooled steel plate will work and how effective it will be on dissipating the heat from the 33 Raptor engines. So at first, the idea was just to build a 3D model and just out of the 3D printed, not out of steel plate, out of different material, just to get a model going and see how the water flows. But then I thought, why don't I just build a 1:31 scale model out of steel and test it ourselves? So that was the initial plan, but now we actually want to test it with an actual propane torch. So we want to gather some data on this project as far as how much do the tests without the water cooled steel plate on working, and see what the effect the torch would have on the plate, and then do the same test with the water cooled steel plate system working and see what percentage of heat was dissipated by doing that test. So if you want to pull up I guess the initial one, show the propane torch test that we did last night.
I guess I kind of wanted to give them a little view of what it is we're talking about here. So this was actually designed by Ryan Hansen Space, correct?
That is correct, and huge thanks to Ryan Hansen and also Jake, and also the team at the RGV team that we're working on this alongside. Ryan did a really good job on this plate itself, and we've just been bouncing off ideas on the back end, just trying to figure out how exactly we're going to make it work. So if you look at this design, it's not like Starbase is the one that they're doing at Starbase. We're only using one inlet pipe. So if you cut into the bottom of the plate to show the inlet pipe, there it is. So that's how it's going to look at the bottom. So what we want to do is just have one form to distribute the water. But if you switch back to the top plate, we ran into an issue where that pressure is going to go directly into the top plate center. So we had to add that hexagon plate to dissipate the water and spread it evenly throughout all the other plates of the hexagon. And then hopefully we can actually have equal pressure flowing back to the center. There's going to be a lot of experimentation with this, and we're going to learn a lot possibly by creating different models and seeing what works best. And we're using a pressure washer to provide so we're eliminating all the water tanks, right? So there's a lot of changes. Obviously, we don't want to do exactly what SpaceX is doing, but the concept is the same. So yeah, you can think about it like a conventional shower head, what we're doing here. So if you want to show the video of the blowtorch so that we can actually see how it might look like, it's just a blowtorch test. So ignore the bottom rusty steel. That's just so that we don't actually test it on the direct ground.
Let's see if this will play. Whoa, hold up. Let me get the volume down on my side. Why is it not playing? Let's see here. There we go. So do you have the ability to like change the force that this is coming out?
I almost feel like I was playing around with the blowtorch and I almost feel like I had it at the low setting at that point. So, I mean, there's a point where I can actually increase how much propane is being pumped into there. And so that's about the right height for the scale model. What do you think, Dave? Is that like right there? Is that the right height for the scaled model 131 scale?
Well, that's tough to say. So you'd be
It's actually a little low, I think. Hang on.
So it would be a little bit higher.
Because it should be about 2 feet up if I'm 30 to 1, so 60 feet in the air is about the OLM height.
So you also have I wanted to show the actual, you've made some pretty good progress on the actual steel plates, right? So this is the
Top plate.
The top plate, right?
Right. Right now we're working on the bottom plate. We don't have the bottom plate yet. We're cutting that one up today, and we're actually going to put it together, weld it together later on today as well. And this is where I actually want the help of the community. If they could help, I've bit off more than I could chew in this project. There's a lot of expenses, a pressure washer, and we might actually, and the steel itself, and also my brother. Big shout out to my brother, Fabricio. So he has a similar name like me, Mauricio, but Fabricio, and he's helping me out with this project. And one of his friends, the welder, so we're gonna have to pay them for their efforts. It's, believe it or not, it's a little time consuming. Just try and figure it out and do it correctly. And if anybody wants to support this project, side project, or become a sponsor, feel free to do it in the. We'll provide the link. I guess we'll provide a link for the PayPal here in the chat if anybody wants to be that, and we'll also obviously credit you all in the after the video as supporters. And so it should be an interesting project. We're gonna record the build process, and hopefully we get the results that we need. And yeah, general chat, let us know what y'all think of this. I mean, oh yeah, there's
It's really cool.
Kirk. One of the questions here is from Kirk. 60 million pounds of thrust says no to this idea. Well, we're not really testing the thrust. We're testing the water-cooled steel plate. So the blowtorch will actually just be to apply the heat. And for the most part, we're not testing the thrust. My initial thought was to actually get 33 rocket model engines and fire it at the plate, but I don't think we're going to generate as much heat compared to it's the problem here is scaling everything down, including the thrust on the plate. And I feel like the propane torch is the better option here. What do y'all think?
I mean, I guess my one thing that I'm wondering is like if you would actually get erosion with the torch if you kept it on here long enough. And I think that's the one difference is that, you may not, it'll heat this plate up, but it won't actually erode it away, which is, I don't know if that's what you would want to be testing at all, is like its durability for not being eroded away. I just don't know if that torch would be able to do it. So I feel like just thinking about it in my head, I wonder if scaling down the actual the thrust kind of, if it still shows the same thing that you want to show, I guess.
Right. So we're gonna simulate the same amount of time that how many seconds is the steel plate going to be exposed to the thrust of the 33 Raptor engines? What is it, between 3 and 6 seconds? Well, I mean, the previous one was way longer than usual, right?
Right. I mean,
about 3 seconds, I think they were.
Yeah, I think I would say, I mean, anywhere between 3 and I would probably even go all the way up to 10 because because of how long it takes for the ship to actually clear the pad once it is lifting off. So I feel like you could go longer on the time just to actually, be able to show what you want to show. So are you going to have temperature sensors like within here?
I'm going to have a thermometer that's going to read it, infrared thermometer. I think that's the model the type that I'm using. So it's going to be pointed straight at the plate. I would want it, depending on the support, I might get several more to read the temperatures at different points on the plate. So obviously one at the certain point and a couple of others. The other thought was to actually, Dave actually brought this idea up, if putting a sensor at the bottom of that top plate would actually be helpful to measure what temperature, not that one, but actually the one you were showing, to be able to read the temperature for the bottom plate to see how much heat gets transferred over to the bottom of that plate. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. I didn't want to. Yeah, it looks like the Red Hot Chili Peppers logo, sort of. But yeah, I didn't want to spend
Oh
too much
yeah.
time on this. I didn't want to spend too much time on this. I didn't want to take away from the actual Starbase weekly live stream and get into the launch site. I know everybody's anxious for that. So yeah, we can. I'll post the link down below in the comment section. If y'all want to support towards this project, I would really appreciate it. And that's it for me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm really excited for that project. I think, one thing that it's cool to show possibly is, basically being able to prove that you won't be boiling steam or boiling the water on the backside of that plate. But again, it is that'll probably be something that can be shown at that scale as long as the thickness of the material is on scale to scale with the real life version. Yeah, that's one thing I think a lot of people are concerned about is steam explosions within the plate. But from what we've kind of been trying to figure out, it seems like that may be impossible to happen. So we'll probably explain that a little bit more here in the future once we're kind of working on the math and actually being able to simulate all that stuff. So, but that will be a great actual physical demonstration to kind of show some of these concepts. But yeah, so moving on to the launch complex, we are still. Sorry, we're thinking about Ship 25. They removed the engine shielding from it last week, and we're still kind of like waiting to see what's happening with that. So they haven't removed any of the engines from the vehicle yet. But what they did do is take all of or most of the shielding. You can see there's still some down here. I'll go to a better image.
Can we take a short break? Indy's got some donations.
Oh, yeah, let's cover those really quick.
Okay. We have starting off from the top, we have some gifted memberships. We have 5 gifted memberships from 55 Chevy guy Steve. We have 5 gifted memberships from John Dopker, 5 gifted memberships from Chris Lyons, 1 from Sharpie, 10 from Rocket Profit, which I mentioned before. We have another gifted membership from Tevins NC. Then we have a new member, Jim Shrive. Welcome to the team. And then we have monetary donations. Jim Cavett donated $5, says thanks. Ulrich M donated €10 and says, RGV, I want a rocket from you! Exclamation point, exclamation point. All in caps. Sharpie donated $10 and says, terrific job as always. Rocket Profit, $10. Sharpie Train pulling out, hop on. Credence, $10. Choo choo, here's to hoping Zach's computer problems go to the aft. John Dopker donated $10 and says, hey Zach, throw some colorful metaphors to your computer guys for me. So, haha, good luck with that. We also have Jim Cavett, who donated $10. And then we have a $500 donation from Alex H., who says, water is better than fire. Wow. Those are some very generous donators. Thank you all so much.
Dang. That's some pretty generous people watching this stream. That's pretty amazing to see.
Yeah, I've been very distracted by this computer issue this entire show, if you guys can't tell. It's really frustrating not being able to do what I normally do. So, yeah, sorry about all of that, but I think we're getting through just fine. But continuing on here a little bit, I was mentioning the engine shielding. So they've removed almost all of it from the launch site, other than I think these are for the 3 center engines, possibly. I'm not sure. But
yeah, you got the false ceiling, the triangular piece, and then the parts at the top, they go around the power head then.
Right. Yeah, so all of the shielding and everything that's around the RVAX, right, is what essentially has been removed, or as far like removed from the launch site.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we actually had a really good photo of inside of the engine bay recently, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I don't know if we showed that last week, but I suppose we can right now. I'm not able to look it up in the background as easily as I normally would. so y'all are gonna have to bear with me if we actually want to show that. But let's go to Twitter really quick and bring up that image. I know I got it on my profile, so yeah. So Elon posted this last week. We did talk about this on the last episode. I know we did. But one of the things that he mentioned, essentially the reason he posted this was kind of to re-announce the 9 engines, adding 3 additional RVACs onto the Starship, which has kind of been something that we've been, I guess, expecting them to do for a long time, but still haven't seen any signs of it at all. So it's kind of interesting that he mentioned it again, because as far as we know, they're not very close to doing that. So they have ships all the way up to ship 34 that have aft sections in various stages of completion. And even though we haven't really, I guess most of the higher, so like 30 and above, we probably haven't seen the actual aft dome on them yet. But as far as we know, they haven't begun to do that on any of the existing starships. So with that said, I think it's interesting that Elon even mentioned it, because it's something that we probably won't see for at least a full year, if not longer. I mean, they're so far ahead on ships that unless they start skipping over them in order to incorporate this faster, like I just don't see how this could happen in less than a year. So it's one of those things that like gets people excited, but I also think it's an announcement that's just like so far out in the future that we probably really shouldn't even be thinking about it.
Yeah, it's cool to see that. Obviously, it is still being thought about, the extra 3 RVACs. You know, that was a nice thing about this tweet, is that we had confirmation of that it wasn't just a temporary idea a long time ago, and that they are still pursuing that.
Right. Oops. Yeah, so I mean, Ship 25 hooked up to a crane right now. We've seen them in there working on it over the last week or two. But you know, we were kind of expecting them to take it off of the test stand and send it back to the build site for some reason, but they haven't done that as of right now. So you know, we haven't really heard any results as far as static fire. We usually don't. So probably just typical maintenance going on, or pre-test checkups. But yeah, not a whole lot to report on Ship 25 right now. And I guess the rest is true for the rest of the suborbital pad as well. Not a whole lot of action going on over here. We've been waiting for them to finish their alterations to test stand B, and I'd say they still got a long way to go. And one of the big things is getting it ready for static fires again, because I believe the pad under test stand B is more reinforced than test stand A. So I think there's a possibility they may end up redoing this before they start doing, if they ever do static fires on this again. But yeah, I mean, they've really been taking their time with getting this test stand back operational, so it seems like they're not really in so much of a rush for that. But just something that we check up on every episode. But I guess let's move over to the orbital tank farm, unless you guys have anything else on this suborbital side that you wanted to mention.
No, nothing really. I mean, there's not a vast amount of stuff going on over there right now.
Oh,
So
look,
yeah, we
I
can
think
move over.
this is the platform that they removed from the
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah,
UD arm. So
yeah.
this used to be on the integration tower. Interesting that they still have that there. I'm surprised they didn't just like remove it all right away. But let's go overhead to the orbital tank farm side, where we finally have some completed or partially completed foundations for for the new tanks that are going to be arriving here. And I think this answers a lot of questions for us, just being able to see what these look like now, because they are way larger than the ones for the the other methane tanks. So it's kind of weird. It almost looks like they're going to be split between the two pads instead of like having just one tank per pad. I'm kind of not sure if that's what we're seeing here, but that's what it looks like. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to have just a square one over here and then rectangles for all the rest. So with that said, I think these are going to be really large tanks.
Yeah. I mean,
Like,
yeah, we've pretty
even bigger than these ones.
known about it for a while as well. Obviously, due to just the sheer amount of pilings in the ground there. They've been expecting quite a bit of weight to go in this area.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what those look like because I mean, even at their Pad 39A site, we haven't seen anything larger than these. So that will be really interesting. Number one, to see how they get it here, because these are already pretty large when they're on the road, anyways. So that's going to be pretty interesting to see that. I got some background noise going on over here that I'm going to try and silence really quick. There we go. All right. So yeah, I mean, right now they've done about half of the first foundation. So you can see that they are still doing some work down here to actually get the conduit installed. So I personally think this is kind of odd just because they've only gone one direction with it, and you kind of got to have a bunch of valves and all that stuff for the ones on this side as well too. But I don't think we ever saw them go in that direction. I think it's yeah. So it's really tough to tell like what they're actually running down here. It's just like regular conduit, but they've also done a little cutout over here, and I think these are vaults, electrical vaults right here. So probably where all of the electrical and comms connections for all of these tanks will be stationed right out of this box right here. But yeah, they're still working on.
Didn't there used to be a little unit of some kind right there in that area that used to be, I can't remember what you call it, a power box of some kind. It was above ground. It was there for
Not
quite a few
that
years.
I know they have
And then
this.
they knocked it down recently.
Sorry, I was speaking over you a little bit. Say that again.
So yeah, it was. I can't think of the name for it, but yeah, it used to be on the edge of the landing pad, and then recently they completely demolished it. I think that might be where it used to be, where those vaults are on the left-hand side there.
I maybe have to go back through some older images to find that, but maybe if you can find it on your side and send it to me, we can do a little before and after and see what was there originally. But yeah, this is going to go. This is going to be really interesting, as I'm saying, just to see how big these tanks are when they actually arrive. They don't really seem to be in a rush with this at all. Unlike the orbital launch mount, they're kind of really just taking their time with this. And it's not like they don't have the space to have a bunch of machines in here working all at the same time. It just seems like they're just literally going one step at a time. So we're, as far as actual tank farm revisions before the next launch, I mean, I would say it's mostly complete because, well, all they really need to do is connect this additional methane tank, and it kind of looks like they're in the process of running those pipes over there, which they haven't done it yet. But I mean, as far as actual tank farm operation, I am not really expecting to see them change anything before this next flight. Like I wouldn't even be surprised if we don't see these tanks arrive until after the next launch. It just doesn't seem to be a like high priority right now because we do know that they've been filling the methane tanks. We know that there's been daily deliveries of liquid oxygen and liquid nitrogen, so they haven't really given any signs that they're going to be making any changeovers before the next launch attempt. And speaking of the next launch attempt, so there's been a lot of questions on whether or not when we should expect to see Booster 9 at the launch site, because I guess, was it last night or this morning, the SPMTs we're seeing going into the Mega Bay. But one of the things that I mentioned earlier in the episode is that I just don't believe that they have power to this building yet. So across the street, they recently installed all of these vaults. We do know that they did they do directional drilling here? Or was that at the? I think they did it here. Yeah. So they did some directional drilling to go under the street. So all of the conduit is down here, and I think some of it is direct lay wire. So some of it is conduit, I think, in this third box, but the rest of it could theoretically be live wire if they were actually ready for that at the Sanchez site, which they're not. So I don't think that they have activated the new 3-phase power from Brownsville yet. So with that being said, if they were to start testing on Booster 9 like next week, I guess, I would expect to see all of those generators return over here. But the actual controls, the distribution panels for those generators that they had out here have all been removed. So I just don't think they'll be able to do anything as far as like pumping related goes. They wouldn't be able to do any cryo testing or anything on the booster in the current state of the tank farm. So to me, that's kind of the indication. It's tough to tell what their progress is on the electrical work out here, because we don't see them like actively pulling any lines through or anything like that. And most of that work will actually happen within the comms building. So yeah, I mean that's just kind of the way I see it right now, and I also still see them working within the Sanchez site to get that electrical substation up and running. So again, it's going to be really tough to tell when it is active, but I just don't think it is yet. So yeah, with that being said, I'd say we still have about 2 weeks until we see Booster 9 out here, but I guess I'll eat some crow on that later if it ends up not being true. All right. Well, there really isn't anything else going on within the orbital tank farm, so I know a lot of you really want to know what's going on with the OLM, so let's go ahead and move up in that direction. Wow. So this is the OLM. So we got a lot to talk about over here. They've done an incredible amount since the last episode. Right now they have obviously have the steel plate in place. They have all of the water manifolds in place right now. They've got all of the pipes appear to be welded and completed right now. So I would say most of the welding work down here is done. And if anything, they may still be working on actually welding the steel plate down to the foundation. But I don't know. They got a lot done in less than a week, or sorry, a full week. I think this is way more progress than I was expecting in that time, and it's pretty impressive. I mean, they're already covering up the pipes down here, which, as I said, is a big sign. But one of the big things that I'm noticing over here on the other side of this foundation is that they've left a layer over here on top of the. So they've poured this pad around the perimeter, and in here is basically still considered the foundation, because that's all tied into the foundation of the structure. And I think this is rebar that we're seeing sticking up through here.
That is.
And you can kind of see the rebar cages being laid down on the backside over here. So they've still got another layer of concrete to pour, which they're preparing for. But, and here's the thing that has been confusing me a little bit because I don't see them. We do know that sometime during the last week, I think it was yesterday or the day before, they brought in a bunch of bags of fondag, which I'm searching for, and I don't see them. So they must be hidden somewhere. But that was kind of a question that we've had from the beginning, is will they still protect the top surface with Fondag? And in my opinion, I would say it looks like that's what they're preparing to do. So they there's probably, I think it's like a 16-inch step between the surface and the top of this plate. So that's a pretty good amount to fill in. And we initially thought maybe they might leave that step and just put like a small ramp for the SVMTs to get up there, at least from this direction. But at least from what it looks like to me, I think they're preparing to pour a large perimeter of Fondag around here, which is really good news in my opinion. I think, Elon said that they were taking the overkill route with this, and I would say that we can confirm that they are, because not only is all of this concrete out here is way more reinforced than it was before. The foundation is probably, if I had to guess, like the actual foundation, probably about 10 times larger than it was. And then on top of that, to have Fondag around the perimeter of this, instead of putting regular concrete that you have to worry about it getting damaged like every time you do a static fire or launch. Really, this is how it probably should have been designed in the first place. I think a lot of people are really still going to say that, they still need a flame diverter, but I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic about this. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, we've got the ring of Fondag around the OLM, surrounded by a ring of concrete that's going to be beyond it. And then if we look around where the Y pipe is, there are still CFA piles out there. And I think that that's going to be tying the new slab they're going to pour into this. So they're going to not have concrete popping up off the ground anymore, because it's going to be anchored down in, unlike what the last stuff was.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be the next. I would say this is probably going to be the next big thing we're waiting on over here. But do you think they would lay this down before they do the first test of the system?
I think they're really close to laying that next base layer of concrete across that area.
Down here.
Yep.
Yeah, this is insane how much work they've gotten done in this amount of time. I know I've said that before, but
yeah,
seriously.
given that they've buried the pipes in dirt already, I don't think they're going to be concerned about access to them and putting them. I think at this point it's a matter of grading this out, getting rebar down, and pouring another 16 inches of concrete here up to the Fondag layer.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, hold on. I think on this side it looks like they've uncovered. Did they remove all of the concrete that was above the vault? I think they did. I think they stripped out a bunch of
Yeah,
concrete.
I think they had to get that pipe in there to the third manifold.
Really?
Well, I think when they cleaned that area out by the leg, when they had to run that pipe back to the rear manifold.
Hmm.
So I think, yeah, they're just like tying everything in.
So we've seen them pour concrete back here over the last few days. I'm trying to. Oh wow.
So they're pouring a new oxygen disposal pit. This is pretty deep, maybe 10-foot deep. And if you look to the right edge of it, there is a pipe, the pipe coming in from the LOX vent. Yep, right there. So this is going to be their LOX boil-off pit. Much more impressive than the slip cast thing where that pickup truck is, which is where the old one was.
Yeah, I was about to look for signs of possibly retention pond back here, but I don't think there's going to be one.
Well, this is a baby retention pond, because if water gets here, it will get retained. Turn into
True.
ice maybe if there's liquid oxygen there, but it'll get retained. Now, can you find a um, straight down shot of this area?
Is this straight down enough, or do you want?
Yeah, this is good. No, if we got one
No.
more from the old that one. Zoom in on the vault by the OLM where the pipes end.
Are you talking about this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had another shot. Actually, you can sort of see it here. There is a small pipe and two conduits between the two big pipes in the vault. And then if you look to the left, the small pipe comes up through the ground a little bit. They've exposed it over by that yellow barrier.
Right here.
No, yeah, right there. So there's other stuff happening here other than the two big water pipes.
That explains a lot. I've been looking for that. Oh man, that just makes even more questions in my head about the test that they performed last week. So, yeah, they did a purge test of this system last week, and one of the questions that I had was like how they actually were able to supply the gas to those tanks, and I think this starts to answer that question. But it doesn't look like they're finished with that. Like, I mean, it seems like this is something that they just did. Like, they just laid those pipes through here. Or do you think they
Yeah,
were already there to begin with?
I'm not sure, but I also see on the top of the two weir pipes the um, black pipe they had venting it last week has been removed.
Well,
Right.
this is why I did not. This is why I haven't been trying to get a second deep dive out yet, because I knew had a feeling that something was going to change over here, and pretty much everything changed, in my opinion, as far as the things that I was concerned about. But sorry, Dave, what were you about to say?
Well, they're obviously there's stuff that may be going in here for testing that then's getting removed, like after they did that purge last week or something. And then, yeah, there's more changes on all the gas plumbing over to the left also.
Sorry to interrupt a minute. I'm just double checking. Can you all hear me clearly?
Yes, I can.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I was just having some trouble with my mic just now.
Oh,
Oh,
were you?
so was I about 5 minutes ago. So join the club.
So, Dave, this is what you were mentioning. It looks like, I mean, just off a quick guess, I'm going to go ahead and say that they're just getting set to put all of these gas canisters down in this area.
That would be a good guess. And then to the left of that, there is a triangle pad that looks like it wants to have a vertical tank mounted on it.
Mm. Well, that's
And
definitely going to be the one from the Sanchez site. You know, here's the thing. Yesterday, I think was that yesterday when they were shut down the highway, and we were kind of all thinking that they were about to do some sort of test of the system. I don't know. I feel like they're not as close as we think they are. I mean,
well,
clearly seeing this stuff, like I don't know, like
but this
how.
looks like they can augment. This looks like an augmentation. If you look at the gas plumbing by the existing high pressure tanks, the big pipe comes out of the high pressure tanks. It comes down to the diagonal down left, and then it ends in a flange.
Are you
If you see
talking
the
about these?
right there, yeah. So I'm thinking that they've got one plant assembled, and they'll add all these extra tanks, and then they'll tie in right here. So this is a two-phase construction project. Phase one is mostly complete, and they're starting phase two.
I mean, yeah, as we know as well, we've still got another big water tank to come to. So that stuff may all be done at the same time as what's going on behind these tanks.
Yeah, so I think there's incremental progress allowed. They're going to finish a phase, they can test it all, use it, and then expand with the next phase. Sort of like the kettle boilers and the pumps on the orbital tank farm.
Mm. I don't know. I feel like I was expecting to see the first test of this in this upcoming week, but now I'm not so sure.
Well, so now right where your cursor is, look at the scaffold. They're also putting some stuff on the near ends of the 4 small tanks. See the scaffolding across the top of the 4 ends of the 4 small tanks?
Yeah, they've had this up here, I think, for a few
Right,
weeks.
but now there's some piping going into the first one, and it looks
Right.
like they're getting ready to do more plumbing to those ports on those tanks. And then there is the other vertical tank right there on the right hand edge of your frame, surrounded in scaffolding that we saw them put in last week.
Right. Man, this just keeps getting more complicated.
Yeah.
Man.
And then a question was raised. Okay, so we saw them. Grover is sitting right here, top left-hand corner of the frame. Grover had self-removed his counterweights and put them on an SPMT that's off to the left of this. Grover has now been set up on crane mat here. He doesn't have his outriggers out, but he's almost in the perfect position to lift a third big tank in. Could that be coming to a launch site near you soon?
I don't think they would use Grover to do that. I feel like the weight of these is probably too much for this crane. Just my thought. I wouldn't see why you would use this when you could just roll the other one back over. But
well, what other loads do we have that needs Grover over a small Grove?
Good question. I don't know. I mean, I kind of thought it was just parked over here, honestly. Out of the way. This is like I said, I hadn't had a chance to go through these images before today, so this is my first time seeing these over here. So this is really interesting. All of the changes that they've made in this area right now.
Okay.
So we know that there's going to be a new vertical tank going in this area, but what do you all think this tank's actually going to be used for?
Well, my original theory was, as far as like how they would fill these tanks, would be to have some sort of liquid nitrogen supply, then vaporize it and use that vaporized gas to pressurize these tanks. So, I mean, that vertical tank could be a liquid nitrogen storage tank, possibly, but I don't know. At this point, it's really tough to tell. What are your thoughts?
That's pretty much exactly along the same lines as I was thinking, because obviously we've seen all that insulation being added to that tank as well now, so that makes me think that there's going to be some sort of cryo liquid in that tank.
Yeah, they're doing some confusing things back here. So I think one other thing I'm just noticing here. So there was 2 pipes that looked like this. I think this was the other one. It was a little bit like basically the same as this, but longer.
They've cut it up, and there's another one over by Sanchez.
I feel like there's a lot of design changes happening in here.
Yeah, there was another one of the pipes, like the one on the top left, on a trailer by Sanchez in today's photos. Outside of Sanchez in the parking area.
Let me go ahead and take a look at that.
I didn't comment on that because it wasn't. Yeah, right there. So that one was over by that tank area, and they put it on a trailer last week and moved it over here.
Yeah, I was going to say that was on that trailer next to it at one point, so it's interesting that they've taken it off and dumped it out the front there like that.
Man, this is getting really confusing. Yeah, I mean, it really seems to me like there's just design changes happening in here. I mean, other than the fact that these tanks have been here for a while, I would think that this is somewhat of a design change, but there is also a possibility that this is just more complicated than what we think of as far as like how you imagine the system working. I mean, it is a lot of force that you're having to use in order to get this water out in less than 10 seconds. So
Yeah, I also think my comment last night is, I swear we have all these beautifully stacked matched tanks here, and then it looks like the next phase is SpaceX went out to Bubba's used tank supply in South Texas and found whatever they had.
yeah, I guess I would have to agree with that. I mean, they're literally all different sizes. So, there is a possibility, though. When I originally saw this, it reminds me of the fluids bunker. So
Yes.
I just don't know if there's any chance that, like, what we were initially kind of thinking would happen over here is a gigantic LOX tank being located right on this pad, which is still possible. And if that is the case, they would likely have a fluids bunker around here somewhere. So, I kind of thought that maybe this was like potentially moving the fluids bunker without disassembling it, like building a second one before you take apart the first one. But I don't know. Now that we've seen these down here, I mean, this is just, like I said, for the third time, getting more and more confusing each day.
Yeah, yeah, they're doing things the SpaceX way. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think we should answer take some questions on this. My mind is kind of spinning. Like I said, this being my first time seeing this, so let's see what everybody in the audience has to say.
All right, just in general, the launch site. Questions for the launch site, right?
Yeah.
All right, this one's from Senti. Question for Dave Avery: have any valves been spotted downstream of the deluge elbows?
No. Next question.
All right, next question from Bill Lair. Could SpaceX build two versions of Starship, a 9-engine version for tanking and a 6-engine for Starlink?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a pretty Starship's pretty modular, so yeah, I can see that.
I can see a whole I can see a whole family of Starships, 6-engine, 9-engine, stretched, unstretched, heat tiled, not heat tiled, disposable. Yeah, I mean, once they have a basic framework, they can plug and play with it, I think.
All right, the next question is, if they add 3 more RVACs, they accomplish what? More thrust? But would they need more fuel? How would they accommodate the additional fuel? From Donald. Question from Donald.
So it's fuel over time. If you have more engines, you can go faster, quicker, with the same amount of fuel. So it's all about defeating the gravity loss as you're getting up to orbit. If you can get there faster, it's more efficient. So more thrust is helpful, and that's basically that's the key to it.
All right, the next question is, can they use the difference in temperature of the liquid nitrogen vertical tank to fill up the horizontal pressure tanks?
My guess is, and I'm sort of looking for another pad to get built over here, is I would expect the vertical cryo tank to feed one or more large vaporizers, and then the output of the vaporizers would be high pressure gas. It could be high pressure gas that they could put in the gas storage tanks.
All right, next question is from Justo Mimo. Is there a process where oxygen is bubbled through water as a purification process?
I haven't seen them use oxygen. They do use ozone. Ozone is very reactive, and it basically bleaches any organic material in a water. A lot of swimming pools and things use ozone systems to purify the water now instead of chlorine.
All right, the next question is, how would they even flush out debris from the pipes? From Paul Shields.
A lot of pressure.
Good question, and hopefully no debris bigger than the holes at the far end.
Yeah.
All right. The next question is from Sharpie. How long do you think it would take for the water to empty out of tanks during launch?
Oh, not very long at all. I mean, yeah, they want to be protecting that area for about 10 seconds or so. So, yeah, it won't take long.
I mean, I've been looking at the Falcon launches. The water flow starts about 3 seconds before ignition and lasts until about T plus 3 seconds or 4 seconds. As soon as the rocket is clear of the tower, the water flow is complete, so it won't be long.
All right. Question from Stephen Lewis. Why 2 water pipes?
Oh, where's Ryan?
Yeah, I think it's to do with getting the water to different places in the steel plate, I think. Yeah, that is more of a Ryan Hansen explanation thing for that.
I'll interpret what Ryan has discussed with me and other people is he thinks that the way this is laid out, the 2 end manifolds are fed from one pipe and the center manifold is fed from the other. And he thinks that the center manifold will provide a predominance of the water going to the center section of the shower head. So what's dead underneath the rocket, so they can apply more pressure or different pressure in the center than around the edge, basically. And that would allow them to tailor the flow a little bit under the coming up under the OLM.
All right. Here's another question from Sharpie. I don't know if I read this one. How long do you think it would take for the water to empty out of the tanks during launch?
Yeah,
Oh,
you
yeah, we
did
just
know
had that one.
All right. Let's see here. Oh, I scrolled up instead of down. All right. Would they be doing this for booster static fire launches and just leave the pad status quo untouched on the SOP for ship static fire?
Whoa. Can you read that again?
Would they be doing this for booster static fire or launches and just leave the pad status quo untouched on the SOP for ship static fire?
I think that's when we were talking about the suborbital Pad A stuff. I think Pad A and Pad B are only going to be ever used for ships at this point, and boosters will always be static fired on the OLM itself.
All right. And the last question here is from James L. Will they launch in August or September? What do y'all think?
I'll let Zach go first.
I'll go with September. Yeah.
That sounds pretty reasonable. I'm going sort of mid-September.
I'm going to say mid-September, but I did say it was possible they could launch in late August, like a month ago when I first thought that they were really moving really fast. So they've still got 6 weeks. I mean, if you think where they were 6 weeks ago, who knows where they'll be in 6 weeks.
If you think where they were last week, who knows where they'll be next week?
Okay, Zach, so you got this lovely down shot of the OLM here. Do you want to comment on what we see in the center?
Yeah, so so it looks like they were in the process of getting set up for we call it the spider. So it's basically a testing rig that is used, and I think we've showed it on this show before. Don't have an image handy of it right now,
but it was lifted in last night.
Right. Yeah, and so basically it has like 20 cables that come off of it and that go across the hold down clamps. So all of these clamps were replaced after the launch because they're basically need to be upgraded for the newer design for the engine shielding or the skirt of the ship or the booster. I mean, so when they replaced these, they had to basically go back through that same process of leveling all of these off. So I'm wondering, one of the things I'm wondering, we've seen them do this test again. I'm expecting that at some point we'll see them come back and do the load cell test on this again. But I don't know if that's something that they'll need to do before the next launch.
Well, if you look, they have all of the chain hoists on the top deck there ready to stretch the octopus out.
Oh yeah, up here.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, it's essentially it could be multiple things. It could be related to, initially we thought it could be related to timing of opening the hold down clamps. However, they ended up opening the hold down clamps like 15 minutes prior to launch. So it's, if anything, most likely alignment. And I mean, Dave, do you have anything to add on that?
No, I think it's all alignment, and it's all this whole thing is obviously with a 100-meter tall object being held up by little tiny things at the bottom, getting the entire hold down system absolutely in one plane is really important, so the rocket isn't angled in some direction.
Yeah, the other thing that we did mention, the aerial work platform is up underneath the launch mount again, so I'm sure they're really grateful for that, not having to be in here with or not be able to use this for such a long time. I'm sure it was probably a pain, especially while they were doing all the work on the QDs up here. So one thing I should point out is that you can still see the gap in between the end plate, I guess the end cap, and the actual pancake over here. So I feel like you can even see from above. This is a weld right here.
Yeah,
See
it
the
should be.
weld right there.
They left about 6 inch to 1 foot gap on the top layer, and the bottom layer is butted together, and now they'll weld the bottom layer all the way across and verify it, and then maybe put some verticals in, and then weld the top plate, which is what they're doing on all 6 sides of the pancake. That's how they connect the extensions in.
Yeah, there's a bunch of unanswered questions down here still. I mean, one thing we don't know, they've added we saw the holes, the threaded holes on the end of this, and we still have no idea why they're threaded. I mean, I've had a few ideas as far as like potentially placing pipes in here so that the water is like there's a curtain around the edge being sprayed out, but I don't know. I just don't really see that happening. I mean, another big question that we don't know the answer to is whether or not there are holes in these end plates. And from what I can tell up here, it doesn't look like there are because you can kind of see them on this piece right here. But I don't see that same pattern on top of this, so I'm not sure if there are holes on this or not. So I feel like a lot of the questions that we have about this aren't going to be able to be answered until we see it tested, and then probably be able to get a good idea of like, where the water actually is coming from, because it's really hard to tell whether or not it's going to be extended out to these plates right here. Yeah, there's just a ton going on down here that I'm like figuring out as I'm looking at it. I see some formwork, it looks like over here, and possibly rebar down there.
Yeah, that looks like
yes.
rebar to me. I did wonder how they were going to fill those gaps in.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, this kind of tells us that they've finished welding these plates down to the ground, and I'm assuming there will be a layer of fondag in here, or they'll fill this in with fondag, and that'll probably be around all sides. And so that's another question as far as like before they test this thing, how far are they going to go with the rest of this completion process? Like, I feel like there's probably not really so much worry about it leaking or anything like that, or not being properly secured to the ground. So I don't know. Maybe
I may be misremembering, but when Elon first talked about these plates, didn't he mention tying the plates into the legs?
Yes, he did.
yeah.
I'm just seeing how they do that there. If they're just going to fill that gap in with concrete or fondant, that's not really tying it to the legs.
Well, I think he was talking mostly about the foundation and not necessarily the physical plates.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, he did say, with the way he said it, sounded like he was talking about the plates, and that's kind of how I took it as well. But that just doesn't appear to be the case. I think the foundation is tied into the legs, which it wasn't before. Like the foundation was just the ring around the perimeter, the tension band, and in my opinion, the stuff in the center was not part of the foundation. It was like its own structure. So now all of the actual blast surface in the middle is tied into the legs. Excuse me, and it's actually extends beyond the legs as well too. So I'm pretty sure that's what he meant by that. Is this a ramp?
No, that should just be the grade outer concrete.
You don't think this is sloped?
Does kind of look sloped to me.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think from the ground photos it looked pretty flat.
I'm looking at this right here is what makes it look sloped. This curve. Let's check it from another angle. I don't know. It looks kind of sloped to me, but it's tough to tell from up here. It's always hard to also see what's happening in this area with all the shadows. But what we can see, we're just trying to see if they've actually laid down the rebar in this area at all for filling this in, but really tough to see back there. I gotta say, I am, just overall, I guess, happy for the way this is like turning out. I think as far as like what I expected um, them to do with the foundation of this, they've far exceeded that. Not like my opinion really matters, but um, I feel like had they installed this without that event happening, it may not look like it does right now. So I think there's a good chance that they actually redesigned it from what they were originally planning to do based on the result of the last launch. And I think that now it's just way more suitable for what they need to do with it. Like this makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I gotta say they've done a pretty damn good job with this. They've really pulled out all the stops. They've definitely got this done a lot quicker than I thought they would.
Yeah, I think for all the bad things we can say about 720, it gave SpaceX a huge amount of data and probably did lend their redesign effort to actually measured effects from that launch.
Agreed. Yeah, that this is definitely part of that data for sure.
I had a
And
question, I guess,
Mhm.
related to the steel plates. In the video that SpaceX was testing the steel plate with water being, I guess, ejected or released, but at an angle. So Dave said that the holes, that there is actually holes. So for that one test, it's not accurate to what we're going to be seeing here at Starbase. The reason they did that on the test at McGregor is because the Raptor engine wasn't at the distance that it is on the launch mount, right? So they had to divert the water sideways to avoid the water going into the nozzles. Now, is that something that they just? My question is, so that was only done for that one test at McGregor. Is that the consensus on everybody that that's the reason why the water looks the way it is, diverted, and they're not doing that here?
You mean spraying out to the sides?
Yeah.
Ryan thinks it's going to spray diagonally here. I'm not as sure.
The reason I ask is because, not to plug the thing again, but on my experiment, I'm trying to replicate what SpaceX is going to do. And so obviously on a smaller scale, the water will reach the 2 feet mark if I just drill holes evenly throughout the plate. So I was thinking that maybe SpaceX, if they are going to shoot them at an angle, that they will have to add some type of cap or angle so that the water gets diverted to a certain direction. I haven't heard Zach's thoughts on this. I don't know if you're holding your thoughts on this one or.
I mean, I think it's possible that the holes in the plates are drilled at an angle. It's really tough to see from the one shot that we got, the leaked image that was of it. I mean, that was really the only thing that we've been able to see the actual holes in it. So it's tough to tell. Like, I think, kind of how I said a little bit ago, I feel like it's really tough to judge some of this stuff until we see it tested. So like, there's a lot of guesswork that's involved in it, and I think for me personally, that's the guesswork is what I'm trying to like avoid a little bit, because obviously if I try and talk about it in an episode or something and then it ends up being wrong in a week, that's the kind of stuff that I'm trying to avoid. So I mean, I would say that as far as what makes the most sense, having them being spraying out at an angle makes the most sense, because I doubt that they want water going straight into the bottom of the engine bells. But yeah, I don't know. I think it is possible that they could be shooting straight upwards. Sorry, I'm just thinking here. I'm thinking out loud. Like I said earlier, I have not seen these images before here, so there's usually I get the chance to actually go through these and have a chance to form some thoughts, but we're forming them on the fly. So sorry about that, everyone. Yeah, do we have some questions about this that we haven't answered?
I think we answered most of them. Kind of caught me off guard here.
Okay, well, while you're thinking about it, Indy, do we have any more donations?
We have lots, actually. First, we want to welcome Murray and Jeff Rowe to our team. They are now RGV flight supporters. We also want to thank Jim Cabot for his gifted membership. There was also another gifted membership from, I'll come back to that one. Then we have a lot of donations for your project, Mauricio. We have a $10 donation from William D, who says, for Mauricio's steel plate experiment, for whatever else he needs. We also have a donation from Andre O for $53.77, and he says, water-cooled steel plate project support. Drake S, $10 for your BBS modeling. Crane Man donated actually $10.19 towards the next flight and says, could we get more likes, please, on the stream? He's looking to get 1,000 likes on the stream. So I don't know if y'all can oblige, but that would be wonderful. And then we have a large donation of $250 towards your project, Mauricio. And it's from Today, who says 1 to 31 scale model of BBS. Thank you for all that you do for the community. And then we have a $20 donation from Kenneth, who says he envisions a Starship with a Canadian arm for satellite maintenance and says, thanks, y'all. And then Todd Burnell donated $10 and says, tennis ball fund, have Mauricio drop a bunch of tennis balls and see which way they roll. Nobody's going to know. And that's it for the donations.
Wow, thank you so much for everybody that donated. That's amazing. It helps out a lot. When I went out there, I showed Jake the receipt when I went to the hardware store, and everybody was kind of, yeah, this is getting too expensive, but not anymore, since, this is covering the expenses so far. The only thing that was pending was we're thinking about actually buying a stick welder to be able to do this project. Is that the proper approach, to use a stick welder for this 16 gauge, which is what we're using?
Yeah, 16 gauge would be fine with a stick welder.
Yeah, so this support helps out a lot for us to move forward with doing that. We do have a welding stick welder on hand, but I'll show it later on. It looks really janky. I feel like we're gonna have issues because it hasn't been used in a long time, and it's about 25 years old, so there's a chance that it might not work correctly. So
There's not much to go wrong with the welder. It's just a
yeah,
transformer.
And
yeah,
I just want to say as well, obviously, with the donations that we're getting towards doing this experiment, it's not just a case of you doing the experiment now, but the actual community is doing the experiment too. And yeah, that's pretty cool to see.
oh yeah, and we're gonna be sharing everything, the build process. I'll hopefully put out an update video of where we're at soon. The status on that, we're building the bottom plate today. We're cutting up the sections and hopefully be done enough to weld it together. So we'll maybe have a model ready to go. As far as just with the donations and support, we'll probably just create another prototype to test out the nozzle system, which that's a question that I was asking just a little while ago about getting that mist effect and creating that deflecting the water to the correct orientation so that we don't get the water up in the propane torch in this particular case. So yeah, I appreciate everything. Thank you so much for everybody that's interested in this project, and hopefully we get some pretty good results before. I mean, the plan is to actually release the video before SpaceX actually conducts their test, but right now it's looking like they're beating us to it. But keep in mind that our test is going to have actual an actual the torch actually doing the test on the steel plate. I don't think we're going to see a static fire on that steel plate for at least not for what do you think, Zach or Dave or Jake? 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, it'll be a while yet, I think.
At least a month, I would say. Well, maybe sooner. I feel like they may jump into static fires really early. Like they'll probably do one cryo and then jump into static fire shortly after that.
And
yeah, real quick here. John Dopker did donate. Indnstar, did you get that donation from John Dopker?
I thought I did earlier today.
Oh, there was a new one giving a shout out to Victoria. I don't have it on hand, but hello, Victoria.
Yeah, totally. My bad. I'm so sorry. Hi, Victoria. Super duper sorry. Glad to see you. Hope you had a good day. Heard you're taking a day off from Starship. Good for you. Have fun, and we look forward to having you back.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Zach.
All right. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking through these. Let's see if we can check out some ground images from the launch complex before we end the show.
yeah, it's supposed to be worth checking out the ground shot of the QD arm as well, because they did add that new framework recently. Unless it was covered during the last stream. Apologize if it was.
No, I think that was this week when this got added. Yeah, so the frame right here that's in front of the QD, it's actually attached. I can't tell if I think it's attached in the center. I don't think it's on the moving structure right here.
Yeah, it's on the platform. It's just extended inwards right now.
Trying to get a view from the other side. Let's see if we have one. Oh, yeah, definitely on the platform. Yeah, so this is actually interesting. We've noticed that there's a ton of mounting points for most likely cameras. So they're pretty much identical to what the ones where the other cameras are mounted. So 3 cameras over here, 4 over there. So they're going to throw a lot of cameras up on this thing, which is awesome. They also have a ton of them already up on the QD. I think they're still building this out. Like we probably are going to see more up here because right now I don't really see the actual use of this until I don't know if there's some like stairs or platforms that are going to go on this or something. But
and it's
yeah,
and it's worth noting that it's as soon as they've added this new framework on that platform that's still remaining will be staying there by the looks of it. Looks kind of odd, but I'm sure there's a pretty good use for it.
Where was this picture taken from, Mauricio?
That was actually taken in front of the orbital fuel farm by Highway 4. And those were phalanges. Oh, how do you pronounce that? Flanges?
Yeah.
When I saw that, I was at first I didn't know what they were. So I was like, are these the nozzles that are but no, they're flanges.
Yeah, wondering what they're for.
To connect pipes together. Dave, maybe you can confirm. That's typically what they're used for.
Yeah, they're called weld-on flanges. So you buy them commercially, and then the end face of it is what welds onto a pipe, and the taper is to try to keep a constant interior volume through the joint.
Yeah, John T calls them neck pipe flanges, weld neck pipe flanges.
Yep.
Yeah, and I notice there's some reducers in the background as well on that palette. Yeah.
And a couple of T's and some elbows and some face flanges. I mean, there's a little bit of everything. A couple blanking plates.
Yeah.
Hey Zach, real quick before we go, you might want to pull up that monitor that was by the suborbital side of the launch site. It's at the very beginning. Chief got that, so he has it out there on Twitter too. I guess we showed up pretty close by it because you can't really see it when past like 9 a.m. because of the sun.
This is inside the suborbital bunker.
It's outside. It's out in the open. You can see it from the road.
It's on the wall.
Yeah, they all have them on the wall on the outside.
Yeah, and they seem to keep making just new additions every time I see this board.
Of course, if you look at it, note the model that they have on the left. It's like ITS.
Yeah, they're still pretty adamant about using that model. They don't seem to have moved on from that one yet.
Yeah, no kidding.
Really, are they going to use the new one? I mean, at the end of the day, it's constantly changing, and they're not going to put their designs out there like that because of us. We keep taking pictures.
Who would do a thing like that?
Right. Even Elon says it. It's that telephoto lens that killed everything.
I've been spelling megabay one word forever.
At least they have room on that area to put the fourth bay status square.
Hey Zach, can you zoom into that Starship? Is that using like the Mark 1 flaps? Is that an old design?
That's old.
Yeah, it's been around for a while, that particular design. Still used in a lot of the official SpaceX renders.
That's funny. I have a nerdy comment. They have different fonts on those little green things. That's unique. Normally they'd be the same fonts. You just stretch the box.
Yeah, I'm actually. I was saying a little bit ago. I've been spelling megabay as a single word forever.
But it's more confirmation that Massey's is Massey's. They haven't changed its name.
Let me go to some shots from in front of the orbital launch mount really quick, just so we can. There's one more thing I wanted to point out just about the. I don't know if we're going to be able to see it from here. Let's see. I think you had a good shot of the manifolds. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so we one of the things I wanted to point out was just the Nelson studs. They welded onto the backside of the cover plates for the water manifolds. So everyone who's seen these before knows these are for obviously kind of similar to rebar, but basically just to allow this to tie into the actual, I guess will be a fondag layer up here. But it'll be interesting to see how thick this is because this is definitely I want to say like a 2 or 3 foot ramp. So yeah, this is going to be a hefty pad that they put down here.
Yeah, I think they're going to pour right up to the top lip of the that shield.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty intense.
Oh yeah, and just a small little detail as well over there is they finally removed the cheese grater from the side of the Drawworks winch housing.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But did somebody get to take it as a piece of modern art?
Yeah, I think they actually
Yeah,
cut it up
they
in pieces though, so they like instead of pulling it off all at once, they cut it off in tiny strips. I think they were trying to avoid using grain or something.
yeah, they probably could have sold that entire piece for a decent amount of money, I think, as an art piece.
Awesome. Well, unless we have any more questions that we haven't answered, we are at the end of our time. I know we did start a little bit late today, but still Saturday.
And you only have 4 minutes left in the 3 hours, so you're good to go.
True. Cool. Well, Andy, did we have anything that we haven't touched on?
No, not to my knowledge.
No, I think we hit all the highlights. Other than remind everybody that if you are a Patreon or YouTube member, you have access to all these images depending on your membership level, and it's a great benefit. And yeah, just amazing work on Mauricio.
And if nothing else, we need to help Mauricio get more sleep because this poor man is working nonstop.
Well, it didn't help that the flight this week was on Friday, so that really scrunches his schedule down.
Yeah, I learned my lesson. You know, there's something definitely wrong with your sleep patterns when you don't remember anything. You don't remember what happened. You just end up waking up kind of panicked. And yeah, I only slept a couple of hours the past few days, so it's been tough. But yeah, it won't happen again. Let's see here. Thanks everybody for joining us today. I want to thank everybody that donated, supported us, and yeah, it's gonna be a fun little project. Like I said, I'll send out the updates for the build process when they're available. And yeah, hopefully you all enjoy that video. Again, we're not just putting it out there. It's a amateur type of experiment. Obviously, we're gonna learn a lot from the build process, and just any suggestions. You know, we're open to suggestion on how to better the quality of this project. I do, in fact, intend on building the orbital launch mount legs. I don't think I mentioned it here, just for aesthetics. The orbital launch mount legs to see how everything, just to make it relatable to the orbital launch mount. And I'm not sure about the orbital launch mount. I'm like, why? I don't think we're gonna have to do something in the sense to keep a constant rate between the plate and where the Raptors would go. So maybe build a stand of some sort for the blowtorch, and if time permits, we might even do build the bottom of the tower just to have it in there, just for aesthetics, I guess. But yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. Thanks everybody for joining us, and I'll pass it on to the next person, Jake or Dave.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Mauricio, are you secretly practicing for a job at SpaceX? You just haven't told us about yet.
Oh no, I'm not at any. I feel like you all have a better chance at anything like that than me.
Plus, you're more of an entrepreneur, if you ask me.
Honestly, this is out of our wheelhouse. This is not what we do. This is just something that I woke up thinking about, and it was kind of, we never talked about it. I think Jake was, I mentioned the project idea when I woke up before I forget, and yeah, I just went with it, and also starting to change things around. If that's successful and people like what we're doing, we might do other experiments related to Starbase in the future. So, but it's all dependent on this project. So yeah, that's it for me.
I'll go next. Yeah, it's been a pleasure to be taking part in this again, and just want to say, massive thanks to everyone that's donated during this stream. No matter how big or small the donations are, it helps massively. So yeah, we really appreciate that, and I look forward to seeing you all for the next stream. And with that, I'll pass it on to Dave.
And I will also say thank you, everybody. I see we have 1,158 people watching at this moment. That is absolutely amazing. And everybody, all I can say is thank you, everybody, and thank you for Mauricio for taking all these pictures. It is just an amazing thing. And with that, I will pass it to Zack.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everyone again for all the awesome questions and being here with us on a Saturday. Really glad to be able to share all of this with you each week. And I mean, I'm really excited for the next few weeks coming up because, you know, with how much progress we've seen this week, next week is bound to be equally as crazy. So, you know, we're one step closer to getting back into the testing game with on the orbital pad. So I think that's what we're all most excited for. And I can't wait for us to get there. So with that, I will see you all next week. And I don't know, Indy, if you wanted to do the sign off.
Sure. And I'll also say bye. Bye, everybody. Main engine cut off, stage separation confirmed. Love